Yo, this is video game composer and creator of Video Games Live, Tommy Tellerico, and you are listening to Nerds Without Pants. I'm not wearing pants right now. How about you?
This week on NWP, this great reboot is directed by Rob Zombie. Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 100, going into triple digits now. I am Julian, and I'm joined as always by Patrick.
Troll 2!
And Angelo.
What Rob Zombie song are you going to splice in there? You got to tell me because...
Oh hell no, that's not happening.
Okay, thank you.
I worked in video game retail and frickin'
I've heard Burn Through the Witches
Dracula
way too many times.
Is in
Yes!
far too many video games.
In everything.
Take You There was in like...
The reason for the Rob Zombie reference is because this is not only our 100th episode, but it's also our annual Halloween Havoc episode.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't do it last year because we were on hiatus, but first there was Halloween Havoc, then there was Halloween Havoc 2, The Startling, then we had Halloween Havoc, so now it's only fitting that we have the Halloween Havoc directed by Rob Zombie. So... That's what it is.
Sure.
It's going to be spooky. Not really quite as spooky. I mean, like, you know, the Halloween Havoc thing was kind of back when we would do like, you know, a dedicated topic for half of the show. We're not actually doing that this time because the show format's changed and, you know, new listeners probably don't know about the old Halloween Havoc stuff. But if you haven't heard it, you should go back and listen to it because it's actually really good stuff. But we do have a spooky edition of Stage Select. So let's go ahead and roll right into that. Angelo, it was your pick for Stage Select this episode, so why don't you go ahead and kick that off?
Okay, so here's a funny thing. The first time I saw this was not in the game. I stumbled.
Well,
Huh?
Let's say what the topic is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do it that way. So we wanted to know what cutscene, when you saw it for the very first time, scared you the most.
And you only get one.
You only get one. And this is going to make a lot of sense considering my history with a whole bunch of stuff that we talked about. So the first time I saw this, was not in the context of the game. So it was totally out of left field. It was something on YouTube where they were talking about various things in video game. Do you guys remember, whoa, brain, what just happened there? The name of the game just dropped right out of my skull.
We're off to a smashing start for episode
Dead
100.
Space. You guys remember Dead Space? There was one cutscene in Dead Space.
Of course.
The second game that was real rough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I was funny because I was listening to an older episode of the show where I think both Patrick and I say, hey, Angelo, don't play the end of Dead Space 2.
Yeah, the eyeball thing? Is that...
Yeah.
The eyeballs!
Ugh! Ugh!
It's like
That is the worst.
Glenn and Walking Dead.
That's so bad. So, yeah, I mean, like, just as far as, like, the most, how am I watching this? I cannot watch this anymore thing in a video game, like, above anything I've seen in any other horror game. That's it. That is top of the charts. So.
And you haven't, like, to clarify, like, you've only seen it in, like, YouTube form. You haven't actually played that game, correct?
No, I haven't played that game. I've seen it in YouTube form, but I wanted to specify that because I needed this to count because, oh my gosh, I can't describe how unnerving that is.
Oh, no, it totally counts, but, like, it's a whole different thing when you're the one that's controlling the laser.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that makes it wonderful.
Or I guess it wasn't it was a needle. It wasn't a laser.
It was
but
needle.
yeah, you have to guide that home. And I think they purposely make it not work the first time.
Uh-huh.
I don't think you can actually like bullseye that one like your first time out. I think they wanted you to see what the effects are for screwing up.
I didn't want to know. I was real happy not knowing.
Oh, they
But I
want
know.
you to know.
I can't go back.
Yeah. It's so tense too, because like his eye is like just, I mean, it doesn't want to stay put,
Nope.
which, you know, yeah, it makes sense. Like if somebody tells me don't move your eye, you know it's going to start moving right away? My eye.
Yep.
Yeah. That's like being circumcised while you're still awake.
Here, I need to stab this right in the middle of your eye, so don't move your eye. And it's like every last instinct of your body is going to tell you, do not freaking dare sit still right now. You know what I mean? You move, get
Yeah.
out.
You need to get out of the way!
You need to move your eye like more than you've ever moved it before.
All of a sudden I'm really cognizant of my eye. Like I never really pay attention to it normally, but now I know every single movement that it makes and it needs to do everything right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the myriad reasons why I don't want to get LASIK surgery. Like just nope.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'll end up like, you know, with half a face.
You know what,
by the
actually,
end of it.
my cousin got LASIK eye surgery in the 90s, and he has, like, cross eyes for the rest of his life now because it didn't work out.
Ooh, yeah. Like, there was an episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets LASIK, and they were talking about how they're not aware of the side effects yet, and he's driving home, and just like crust just forms over both eyes completely. And that's another thing for me is like crust
Ew.
and like stuff like that just creeps me the hell out. So that's why the enemy pirates on the second and third Pirates of the Caribbean movies, like just give me the Wiggins because of just all the like crustaceans growing off of their chins and stuff. Like it just, oh.
Eyeball stuff is
Don't
definitely
like
the
that.
worst, though. Like, if there was something growing out of some dude's eye, that's kind of like...
Yeah.
Like, there's, I don't know if you know, like, Drakengard 3 at all, but the main character in that, her eye is missing, and there's, like, a flower growing out where the eyeball was. And it's so... like, if you look at it, it's like, well, that's kind of neat, but it's also like, man, if you think about that for at all, like, it's so messed up. So, yeah. But that's like Drakengard / Near World, so everything's messed up anyway.
Yeah. It's episode 100. He had to bring it up.
I wasn't even trying. It just came in there. Talking about eyeball body horror.
It's a gift. I'm so not looking forward to when that sequel comes out.
I'm gonna be. Well, here's the thing. If it's good, you're in for a lot of trouble. If it's bad, you're probably gonna hear about it once or twice, and I'm just gonna start talking about the old one again. How much better it was.
Do you want to go next, Patrick?
For my scariest moment?
Yeah, your scariest cutscene.
Well, I think I should go next because it's not any surprise. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I had like an out-of-body experience when I was playing The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. I was talking to a bunch of different friends even, and like a lot of them kept coming back to like the fact that when I was playing that game, when I went into the portal where I saw like that sea monster and I couldn't get out of it, and I just felt like so trapped that like that was like a changing moment in my life almost. So like I don't think I could ever go with anything else because that's the most it probably wasn't the scariest that I've felt because it felt that like fear my entire life, but it was like the most deep and profound fear that I've ever felt, because it was just something that I'd seen in my dreams my whole life and something that randomly showed up in a video game. No matter how it showed up, it was like, I know it's not because of the video game, it's because of my own personal experience, but those aligning so closely to like what I had seen as a child, like in my own dreams, I was like, that is something that I'm never going to be more scared of or more fearful for in my life, and I'm seeing it right now. What do? I can't stop it. I need to move, but I can't move. There's nowhere to save. I can't find out where I go. So yeah, it was like near the end of the game, and I talked about how I was going in like this mine cart, and I just randomly got out and moved to the left side of the screen, and I found like this little hole, and I went down into it, and then there was like this weird convoluted puzzle that took me like a couple weeks to figure out, and then after I figured it out, I got into that portal, and that's what was on the other side. It was like the thing that I'd seen in my dreams, and there's nothing probably that'll be scarier than that.
I need to play this game. I just got I don't know if I mentioned this in the show, but I just got a brand new gaming PC. It's a laptop. It can probably play Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and I think I need to get that game for it.
Definitely, it's pretty short too.
It's not a horror game per se, right? It's more of just like a cerebral, like, adventure game, or is it dedicated horror?
It's sort of like a horror incident happened in the past, and you're trying to, like, be a detective, sort of like Batman Origins almost, where you're, like, recreating the scene as it happens.
Oh, okay.
So it's
like,
more than, like, it has more, like, interaction than, say, like, a Gone Home would.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I don't think I could play a game like Gone Home, but I think I could play a game where you're actually having to think, having to make, like, decisions, things like that. That at least would keep me interested.
It's more similar to Gone Home than most games, I'd say, but it's also less similar to Gone Home than a, like, slow portion of Resident Evil where you're trying to figure out a puzzle or something.
I wish you guys had played, like, well, no, you played Corpse Party. That's a visual novel, right? Julian?
Yeah.
Have you played Vanishing
basically.
of Ethan Carter?
I have not, no.
I played...
That's why I was asking.
I played, like, Danganronpa, though, and I know how, like, close to a graphic novel it is compared to Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and I think that it's actually pretty close, because
Good.
a lot of the aspects of Vanishing of Ethan Carter are going to happen as soon as you press them. It's not like you can fail in certain ways, because there's not really enemies. The enemy is more like where the environment is hiding things. And you kind of just have to be in that atmosphere until you can figure it out. Sort of like Myst, almost.
See, I liked
I
Myst.
dig me some Myst.
Well,
except it's not like you can't solve it like Myst has that tendency to.
Yeah.
I actually made it. I think I made it all the way through Myst on my own.
What?
I think I did. I think
you learned like an entire like language.
Well, that was before like I really had access to the internet, and it was also before like I had money to buy strategy guides and stuff. And I think I finished that game. I probably had some help. I might have called a hotline. I might have needed help for like one or two puzzles, but I made it through the majority of that game on my own. That was a head scratcher, man.
What ending? There's 3 endings to that one. There's the red book, the blue book, and then there's another ending.
I think I did them all once I found out that there were more endings, because I think it was one of those things where you just had to like the choice was at the end.
That is,
so you could just like reload your save.
Guys, that is a great thing that I want to know about in episode 100. Like, I have no idea what happens in Myst and what gets resolved at all. And I played that game a lot.
Like, oh, dude, I was 14 and I never went back. Like, I don't know
for you, because I will do that.
This is episode 100. I think big things are supposed to happen. Yeah.
All right. So
one of the biggest best-selling games in history of ever.
Okay. So here we go. I'm going to do this. There are 3 different endings to that game. There are the 2 standard endings and there's the secret ending. The 2 standard endings are you find the pages that go to these guys' books. And that's the whole plot of the game, is you're trying to find these pages. There are pages that are the color of the 2 books. When you find them, you put them in there, and the characters then become free from the books. In both situations, there were 2 brothers. When you free them, they swap places with you in the book, and they tear all the pages out again, and you're trapped in the book. That's what happens with both of those ones. But the thing is, there's a secret 3rd book, and if you find that one and put that one together, that's where their father is, and he kind of, I'll leave that part of mystery. Go YouTube it if you want to watch it, but he sort of explains everything that's going on, and that's like the true ending, if you will, to the game.
I want to know!
Nope.
Okay, then I didn't get the true ending. I definitely remember, like, getting stuck in the book and everything like that, because both of the brothers were freaking crazy.
Yeah, they were nuts. There's a 3rd ending, though, with their father. So, yeah.
And how does that relate to, like, Riven and Myst 3?
I didn't play any of those.
I never even touched them, yeah. For me, Myst was like this very, like, pure experience, kind of like BioShock 1, where it's kind of like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I never even went back to Myst. Like, I never played it again. Like, I had that experience, and I have no need to go back. I'll play games that are similar to it, but I don't need to play Myst again. Like, I just don't. Like, I like my memories of it.
For a more current, more easy to finally get through version of Myst, I would actually recommend the Talos Principle. I'm still playing through it, but I think there's so many similarities to that and Portal that are mixed together that make it for like such a good narrative that no one should miss.
Which one?
Yeah, I've heard good things about that.
Is Talos Principle the one with all... Oh, gosh, there were a bunch of games that came out last year where they were all the robots. The game was about all the robots.
There's a lot of robots, but there's like this weird overarching guy who's like speaking down and like saying, go do this thing because I said so. No, don't listen to the thoughts that you're having saying maybe you shouldn't do that.
Oh, that's
like
the one that the guy made. Okay, I know which one this is now. Okay.
You have to use like camera type things that like take infrared lights and like shoot them certain places on the map so that you can open up certain doors and like get keys and stuff that give you puzzle pieces and that you have to arrange in certain ways. Similar to like Tetris, like putting all on like one square area to get you new abilities that'll help you make more complex puzzles easy to solve. And then I'm not really sure what happens because I haven't found out. Like I haven't solved all the puzzles yet, but I know that it's such a good combination of Myst and Portal that like if you like either of those things, it's a great follow-up.
I think I liked Myst in its day, but I don't think I would enjoy playing it at all right now, to be honest with you.
Well, not Myst. I mean, it's so...
Yeah, but would you like The Witness now? I mean, I don't know. I haven't played The Witness really, but I've heard that's great.
I mean, The Witness has stuff to do. That's the thing. Give me something to do, and I will probably be interested. We are way off topic. I just realized this. But the thing that I don't like about everything I've heard about like Gone Home and Firewatch and those kinds of games is it doesn't actually sound like there's stuff for you to do. You just sort of wander around and stuff happens. And you pick up things and look at them. And it's not really as... Like, even the games that I like that are kind of in that vein, like Virtue's Last Reward and 999, there's decisions you make. There's things that you have to figure out. Your brain is turning all the time, and you're thinking about the story and the plot and what you want to do next to figure out what's going on here. And I don't feel like those games are doing that.
Oh, man, you were going to hate VR. We'll get to it in Consumption Junction.
As in virtual reality?
Yeah.
So I might not because there's a novelty factor there, and that's what got me to kind of play Myst when Myst came out because that game looked like nothing else that was out there at the time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that, you know, you can't really play Myst now and get what we got out of it back in like 94, 95 because back then, like 9/10 of it was like, look at these graphics. Like, look at how beautiful this is. You know, and it's like everything looks so real and it's like they're just static images. Like you're literally like moving from static image to static image. But we'd never seen rendered graphics like that at that point. Maybe it was earlier than that. Maybe it wasn't 94. Maybe it was like 93 or 92.
It was right around the same time CD drives literally came out. Yeah. It was like 2 months later, here's Myst. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back on the topic, you know, this was a really interesting topic, Angelo, because like I was racking my brain thinking of like cutscenes that scared me because like I think with horror games for me or games that are scary, it's the atmosphere that does it. Like it's not necessarily like, you know, here's like a scripted scene. It's more of like, oh, this is very unsettling or, you know, cause like one of the famous ones is like the dog jumping out of the window in Resident Evil, but that's not a cutscene. Right. That's actually like, that's happening, you know, it's like the introduction of that enemy, you know, so I wouldn't consider that necessarily a cutscene, you know, so I was like, man, so what is something that actually did it? And for me, and it's funny because like you also had said like the first time that you saw it, and I think that for this particular game, there are other cutscenes that creep me out more as I got older than this one, but this was the initial one, and it's Silent Hill 2. It's when you see Pyramid Head humping the two-ended mannequin. Mm-hmm. It's like the most disturbing thing. And it's like, it wasn't so much scary as it was just like completely
so wrong,
off-putting and like, is he? He's not. No, he is. Oh, you know, and that game is already so grimy and you're already in such a weird headspace when that happens. And it's like, why is he doing that? And it's just so violent too. It's like, he's pumping away.
It made me think of like a dog because dogs don't necessarily do that always to they don't do it the way humans do necessarily. Sometimes they do that just to show dominance, like just to show I'm in charge,
Right.
You're beneath me. And that's kind of what that scene felt like. It felt very beastie, like very animalistic.
It's an excellent, yeah. And so that's the one that's stuck in my head, but I would say as I've gotten older, like the two in Silent Hill 2 that creep me out more just in the after the fact is there's a scene where, I'm forgetting the names now. It's James, right? It's James. And he's with Alice. Right? Yeah. And it's a part where like he's gonna leave her alone or something. And she just kind of like goes off on him for even thinking about leaving her alone. And the voice acting in Silent Hill 2 at the time was like some of the best voice acting the industry had ever seen. Like, I think it still holds up today. But you see that side of her, cause up to that point, she'd still been pretty reserved and kind of like, pretty okay with everything that was going on considering. But then in that moment, like all that drops and she just like is almost like a completely different person. You're like, whoa, like, where's this coming from? This is not good. So there's that one. And then there's the one, I never remember her name, but she's like the dark haired girl with the sweater. And it's towards the end of the game when she's talking to you from a staircase and it's on fire and she's just talking to you normally. And then when she walks away and you start to say something about the fire and she's like, oh, you see it too? That's how the world is for me every day. And it's just like, oh, those are the two that like mess with me more now, like as I think about them. But like initially it was definitely Pyramid Head humping the mannequin.
Yeah, I could see that definitely because it's just so wrong. Like nothing about that seems okay at all. And not even in like it's just so weird.
Especially when you start to take into account the fact that the Silent Hill antagonists are based around, they're basically physical manifestations of the protagonist's psyche. And that's the reason that like a lot of like really diehard Silent Hill fans don't like the fact that Pyramid Head was in the movie and then also showed up in Silent Hill Homecoming, because Pyramid Head is specifically a tormentor of James Sunderland in Silent Hill 2. Like it's kind of the manifestation of his frustration with being saddled with a wife that was on her deathbed, but like still alive and all of that stuff. And like all of this like sexual frustration and all that stuff. Like it's funny because like the very first date that I ever went on, I ended up like at some point gaming came up, and I don't recommend that this come up in a first date. Like it's not a good idea to do, but it was the first time I ever went on a date. And video games came up and we ended up having this really deep conversation about Silent Hill because she actually knew Silent Hill. And I was talking about, oh, well, actually, like, if you delve deep into like what the characters are dealing with, like all these enemies are based on that. And it's really like interesting and everything. And we ended up dating. So that was nice, but like that could have gone a very different way if it was a different type of woman.
I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing to just put out in the open right away, but it's all on how you deliver it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're as hardcore as I am or as we are, like it's something that should be known.
Yeah.
So that, they understand, but at the same time, it's like, you don't want to lead with that. It's not like that, that this isn't my identity. Like this isn't the only thing that I am, although it kind of is. But for other normal people, maybe not so much.
I'm thinking more importantly about like the rest of your theory about the rest of the game, because if Pyramid Head is like the representation of some of the sexual urges that James has, what about the rest of the enemies in the game, and how do you fit the entire game in general into the whole psyche? Like I know I was just like reacquainting myself with that game in general in the fog and everything, but what about the doorman and like the abstract daddy that's also like in James's psyche? What does he represent in addition?
I mean, I couldn't say because one, it's been a while since I played it, and two, I don't really remember them, but it's not just, I mean, that's like an aspect, so like you got to think about like the way the nurses look. Like they're very, except for their faces, they're like your typical like sexy nurse from like the 60s style, like they're wearing the old nurse outfit. Yeah. They've got like the tight mini skirt and the high heels and stuff. Like it's a very fetishized version of a nurse. You think about the mannequin. I mean, it's literally two bottom halves of women like duct taped together. You know, like there's some definitely weird stuff going on there, and other stuff too, because like, you know, spoiler alert, like kind of the crux of James's issue is that he smothered his wife on her sickbed, and so it's all this guilt that's welling up in him, you know, but part of that is like the fact that he couldn't be with his wife in a sexual way for a long time, and so there was like a lot of sexual pent up frustration, but then other aspects of it too, like, and then if you go into like Silent Hill 3, and I should state, I'm by no means an expert. Like, I have a friend who's like a huge scholar of Silent Hill, and he can school me on this, but one of the enemies in Silent Hill 3 is literally called cancer. And I always felt that was like part of Heather's concern over her father, because all she had was her father, and like she was very worried about him dying. And so I think that part of that manifests in that way, where it's like, oh, that's a fear that children have as they get older. You know, what if my parent gets like some really bad disease? Obviously something worse happens to him than that, but I always felt that was like a basic like fear of hers that was, you know, displaying itself that way.
And I'm no expert either, but I'm just going to throw this out there. The story has a very central emphasis, and that's what Julian was just talking about with that central plot. But on the outside, you see these peripheral characters, and we don't get to see every aspect of James. Like, these peripheral characters probably represent something that might be part of, say, the Silent Hill 2 Bible, if you will. Like, you know, the big document that they draw out with all the background and all that crap, that they just don't go into that aspect of him because it's not relevant to the central story. So, you know, the doorman doesn't necessarily have to be anything in particular that we get to know, but it does mean something to James, and that's kind of more important. And that's, I'm kind of like throwing this out there because I'm not 100% sure on it. Maybe it does have a deeper meaning that I don't really know. But I just kind of wrote a lot of that stuff off as, here's stuff that's relevant to him that he would understand, but we as a player wouldn't, because it's not necessarily part of the story that we're witnessing right now. If you follow that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's Maria, not Alice. I need to correct that for the female character, because it just popped in my head, and I'd feel bad about getting that wrong.
Just met a girl named Maria.
I just feel like it's a good thing we went so deep into this game, since we're one of the deepest podcasts in all of video game podcasts, and it's the 100th episode, so how appropriate.
Almost did a spit.
Angelo almost spit his alcohol because he couldn't keep a straight face on that.
Man.
So deep.
We go deep, like Pyramid Head. I shouldn't have made that joke.
We cover it all while bearing everything. Like,
there it is. That's better.
Like, start the show off
and
like
I didn't
that.
Say anything.
I keep meaning to start the show off with that new tagline. I keep forgetting. We did have a little bit of participation, and I gotta say, come on, guys, like, we reformatted the show for you. Like, we want to hear from more people. Like, yeah. I know that I've been a little bit bad about, like, getting the word out, you know, like, cause basically you have Twitter and then you have the website to go participate. And I need to be better. Maybe I need to do like a separate blog post or something on Pixelbit and tweet more often from the account. But, you know, we do want to get more input from people, because that's what makes this thing so much fun. You don't want to just hear us ramble on.
Guys, we got to get the PewDiePies of the world.
I don't want the PewDiePies of the world.
That's how it happens. I mean, if you guys don't comment so much, we're going to have to get them. And make you get those PewDiePie fans.
As far as I can tell, his channel has just devolved into him just making videos reacting to people reacting to him now. Like, I don't think he even really does anything.
Yeah.
Like, he's just kind of like yelling about people yelling about him.
That man has made retirement money. He can do whatever he wants now. He's
sure,
good.
but maybe just not do anything. Maybe, just go ahead and retire.
There you go.
Anyway, over at Pixelbit, we got 3 entries. First one comes from Casey, fellow writer. He says, it's definitely Knights of the Old Republic 2 when they revealed Darth Sion. He says it built up, it built up that you were being hunted in the first space station, which he mentions has some very strong BioShock vibes. And once I saw what the Sith leader looked and sounded like, I was rushing as quick as I could to get the hell out of there. So, there we go. I have not, unfortunately, played Knights of the Old Republic 2, but I like the fact that it wasn't a horror game, because I think that it doesn't have to be a horror game to scare the crap out of you. I'll definitely talk about that when we get into Consumption Junction, because there is a game... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it doesn't even necessarily have to be, well, it's a little late to say this now, it doesn't necessarily have to be scary. It could be disturbing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody said, the end of God of War 3, like that final scene, because I've heard people describe that as disturbing. That last cut, QTE. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah,
where you just realize there's no end to this, and you're just mindlessly hitting that punch over and over and over again until you choose to stop. And how, like, that kind of makes everything just suddenly become very, very weird and uncomfortable and disturbing, that kind of thing. I could see that making the list.
In a game that was already, like, pretty much uncomfortable and disturbing from the jump, because they just kind of destroyed anything about that character that I enjoyed by that third game.
There's that, too. But I think that last cutscene was... It's a QTE, but I would consider that a cutscene. I think that was particularly well thought out.
Yeah.
Moving on.
No, that's a good point. Michael117, I like this one. He says, this probably doesn't count as a cutscene, but it's very early and vivid gaming memory of being genuinely scared. He says, when I was young, I had a Pizza Hut demo disc with a Parasite Eve trailer that terrified me and made me, never want to play the game. It starts out with a creepy opera singer watching her entire audience spontaneously burst into flames, and then a Ghostbusters 2 style goop shoots out of the sewers, and then the goop brings a T-Rex skeleton to life. And right after that, it brutally mutates a rat. I still won't play Parasite Eve. And it is a cutscene. I mean, actually, the opera scene, I mean, that's the beginning of the game. The T-Rex isn't in the beginning, but the rat mutating is definitely one of the first things in Parasite Eve. And that game's got some messed up stuff in it. The last boss is like a space fetus, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Like it's like a mutated fetus. Like that game is effed up.
Yeah. I never saw those scenes so much as, I mean, yeah, they were disturbing, but like once the initial they didn't really hit me as hard. I guess in that department, as I was just like, look at these graphics, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never thought video games could render this stuff, Right. It might have to do a little bit with where I was at the time. Like I thought cutscenes were like the most amazing thing on the planet on the PlayStation, and they really were. And the Parasite Eve ones are like top level cutscenes. It's like Square Enix at the top of their game. So
yeah, not so much now. I mean, you go back and watch. I mean, because I played Parasite Eve just recently, and it's like it's still effective, but yeah, you start to realize, a lot of these games were just built around these cutscenes.
Sure,
like it was kind of like, that was the whole spectacle, and it almost. You almost kind of wish that they hadn't let that genie out of the bottle for that company in particular. Because at some point they just started chasing that over anything else. Like I feel that maybe the reason 15 took so long is because they've just been trying to chase like the realest graphics we could possibly make for a fantasy game. And it's like, but we would have been happy with something a lot more simple and stylized just if the game was done 5 years ago.
There's going to become a point of no return, though, when the graphics get so good that is not something they can go for anymore in order to get people to, like, watch or play what they want. Just like Seth Rogen won't be able to make weed jokes anymore once weeds gets legalized. Like, there's going to be a point where the graphics are so good where people are going to want them cartoony or want something else out of them. And at that point, hopefully, I hope they remake Parasite Eve and incorporate more new aspects into it. Just like I'm very happy for Final Fantasy VII and that remake, and like all the battle systems changing. Like I don't know. I just played World of Final Fantasy, and like they incorporated the new battle system and the old. And I think like the future, as the future comes, we're gonna have options. You're gonna be able to play whatever way you want, and the graphics are gonna be better. The cinematography is gonna be exactly what you thought it was the first time you saw Parasite Eve, except it'll be all new.
I mean, that's what I've been saying for years, is that I want to reach that point where they excuse me, they can do photorealistic, and at that point it's like, but why? Like now let's just be artists and do some really wacky stuff, you know, like for Final Fantasy in particular, like I've said multiple times, like Final Fantasy needs its Wind Waker. Like it needs that game that just looks completely different from everything else. It needs to be like not an offshoot. It needs to be like Final Fantasy 17 needs to look like it's made out of watercolor or something.
Right.
Just to like completely turn things upside down.
One of the things I said when we were playing El Shaddai, way back when backloggers was a thing, was I want a Final Fantasy game that takes Nomura art and does this with it. Or not Nomura,
exactly.
I'm sorry. Oh gosh.
Amano,
thank you. Yeah, Nomura is the reason for Gorgeous Beauty being a thing, but whatever. Sorry if that reference is a bit of a deep cut, but whatever.
You might think this is a little topical now, but I think in the long spectrum of it, World of Final Fantasy might have a bigger place than we realize right now because of the things that it brings together. And a lot of the stuff you guys just talked about might be happening for the first time ever in a few ways for World of Final Fantasy, like bringing the chibi art style to a new, like, fully fledged Final Fantasy game, but also bringing the Pokemon aspect into a Final Fantasy game to collect a bunch of different enemies.
And we'll get to it. I mean, it's definitely going to be in Consumption Junction because I got it today. So, it'll be one of the things we're talking about, but we still have some stage select picks here.
Okay.
Exrian, he chimes in, he echoes me, he says Silent Hill 2. Now he took it actually more of like not necessarily a cutscene, I think. He says that he was so psyched, that I woke up at 4 a.m. on a school day to play Silent Hill 2. As I walked through the foggy streets, a monster screeched and came crawling from under a car. It's one of the few jump scares I've had in games. So, not necessarily a cutscene. You know, that's kind of more like what we were saying about like the dog, you know, coming out of the window on Resident Evil. But definitely, you know, like one of those, you know, tone setting moments. Yeah. For sure.
I wouldn't necessarily hang that on him. I probably should have explained what I meant a little more detail. I can see how people would do that. It's a scripted event. So.
Yeah. It works. And it's been a while since I played it, so it could very well be that it does cut away to like an actual like scripted scene. Like I don't really remember. I remember getting scared by something like that, but I don't remember if it was just like an enemy coming out or if it was actually a scripted cutscene. We got a handful on Twitter as well. Let me sift through these real quick. The dude Esquire, who you can find on Twitter at Juris_Dudents, which I kind of like that. I kind of like that name.
That's pretty good.
Says and you have to comment on this one for me, Angela. He says the first time Master Chief encounters the Flood in Halo 1.
Oh.
What?
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say that was unnerving. It's literally,
it's not scary, but it's
I can see how it could be, because you're going through like video logs of these people who died to the Flood. And, you know, you're watching them if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I played Halo 1. But they get attacked by the Flood, they all die, and then, boom, the Flood is just on you. Like, they're everywhere. And the Flood are enemies that are completely different from, you know, the Covenant, whereas the Covenant are, you know, you got your grunts, and you've got your jackals, and you've got your elites, and they're sort of take some work to take down. The Flood's easy to kill, but there's a million of them. You know, they just come from everywhere and they just swarm you. That's their whole tactic. So I can see how that would be scary, sure, especially if you weren't expecting it. And there is a build up to it as well, where they're building up this tension, and then you just hit it and there's the Flood and oh crap, now it's on. So.
All I know about the Flood is that when we got to them on Halo 3, I was not a fan. Like, I was just like, this is not fun. I don't like this.
Well, Halo 3 was the game where they were trying to wrap everything up. And I think of the trilogy from just about almost every perspective, Halo 3 is kind of the weakest. I think Halo 2 is the strongest. So.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, from story, from revelations, from gameplay, from just about everything. But Halo.
To be honest, I think like a lot of franchises, not just Halo, have the strongest as in their number 2 out of the trilogy. Like
almost always.
Yeah, Uncharted, Godfather, like all of them, like they take what was a formula, iterate on it to the highest level, and then they try to make one more after that, and really that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People were looking for an innovation in 3, the way there was an innovation in 1 and 2, and they kind of didn't have that much left in the tank at that point, I think.
And now here we are waiting on 6.
That's why Half-Life 3 has never happened yet, guys.
Fair enough.
Half-Life 3 hasn't happened because they're making so much money off of freaking Dota.
Yeah, that too. That secretly Dota was actually Half-Life 3.
That's amazing.
This one comes in from the TNB podcast, which is at TNB pod. I'm going to assume that this is actually Bobby and not Tyler. But it could be. I don't know. I'm not sure who actually runs the Twitter account. But he says, when Resident Evil 2 released, I was 5 years old. I watched my dad play through the whole game, and I'll never forget the scene when you encounter the first licker. That scared the shit out of me. Between it crawling past the window and just being on the ceiling, by today's standards, that's pretty scary. And that one, yeah, like, unlike the dog, like, that one is like a very specific cutscene where, you know, it's just like kind of runs across the window and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I still remember that. Like, I was 18 when that game came out.
Oh.
And I played it. I bought it. It was a Friday that I think it came out, and I had it beaten on Saturday night, and then I never played it again. But I still remember, like, the first time you see the licker, and also the time when the licker comes out of the interrogation room window, because you can't see anything. It's just like it's like an opaque window, or mirror rather, and then just comes right out at you, and it's like, ugh.
I want to say, didn't Dino Crisis have a really good one too? I don't remember Dino Crisis all that well, but wasn't there a really good jumpy cutscene in that one too?
I mean, there's that part where the T-Rex head comes like right through the window at you.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
It doesn't beat the eyeball thing for me, but that was pretty good.
I want a new Dino Crisis with like today's graphics. You can have such a sense of scale now. You know, like back then, I mean, they were very much like that's all you could see was the T-Rex head, you know, because they couldn't really do the rest of it. Like, I mean, I guess they kind of could have. They did the T-Rex fight in Tomb Raider 1, but you know what I mean? Like, that was really, like, the whole environment was like basically black so that they could like, you know, put all the polygons there, and like, it just didn't look the same. Like, let's get some big dinosaurs.
I mean, even Jurassic Park is not being capitalized on. Like, that whole franchise, the best game in the franchise is probably a Telltale game or something like
It's
that.
not really
like,
that
it's,
good
it's
either.
hard to believe. No, it's not. But like, everyone loves dinosaurs, and we just haven't had any good dinosaur games. It's like, why are they underutilizing this so much? Everyone loves Turok.
There's that Ark game for Xbox One and PC that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, but it's like sort of pre-alpha and stuff like that, and like a lot, you have to like buy into it early, and there's the whole Kickstarter stigma, like, is this going to really be made into something?
Yeah, I keep seeing it on the store, and it's like, oh, not a game yet. Okay, never mind. Like,
Yeah.
Horizon has metal dinosaurs, Horizon Zero Dawn, but it's not really a horror
Thank
scary
God.
game either.
Yeah, I can't wait for it.
I hope it's as good as it looks, because it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I have confidence. I feel that everything I've seen of it looks exactly like what that game should be. So we'll see. But that wraps up this edition of Stage Select. The three of us came together for our next Stage Select pick. Considering that it's like episode 100, it would normally be Patrick's pick, but we're like, no, you know what? It's episode 100. Let's all like brainstorm. And so we kind of we kind of put our heads together before we started recording and decided we want to know, and this is topical. We'll probably bring it up more during Consumption Junction, I think, but with the Nintendo Switch being formally announced finally, what is the one thing that you want to see from the Nintendo Switch? And just keep in mind that's a very broad term, so that can really, you know, constitute anything that you want to see, be it in the hardware, the software, you know, the price, the development, like whatever. Like, you can, like, whatever you are hoping for the most for the Nintendo Switch. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, bringing like some sort of tablet feature to video games.
Yeah. Anything like that. So,
crazy shit.
You can tweet us at NWPcast if you want to participate that way. Or you can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the notes for this episode. And that'll go ahead and do it for Stage Select. It's time for some Consumption Junction.
What's your function?
And Patrick, how about we kick it off with you? Because you seemed very jazzed that you had like a bunch of stuff that you wanted to hit up.
So much stuff. I haven't talked about it in a long time, like what I've been consuming. I almost beat all of Alienation at this point, and I think it's like a really good twin-stick shooter for everybody to play. It's, like I said before, similar to Diablo, except a little bit more forgiving in a lot of ways, and not much more to say about that, but just really happy to have gotten through it. I have not been playing so many new games because I've been doing a lot of schoolwork, but the new games that I have been playing I'm really excited about, like Battlefield 1. I don't typically play military games, multiplayer shooters like that. But this one I thought was pretty cool because it's about the Great War. I was thinking about like Valiant Hearts. I was thinking about like, you know, my entire history, my family's history and all that, like people fighting in wars like World War II and One, and the big tradition, everything like that. And I thought it would be cool to figure out more of it through the perspective of actually playing it. I think that everybody who wants to learn more about World War One needs to play Battlefield 1 because it has 6 different vignettes that are pretty historically accurate as far as I can tell so far. Different stories of World War One veterans. In addition to that, it has all real guns that are from World War One. And when you're playing World War One maps in multiplayer, not only do you get to say World War One a bunch of times like I am right now, but you also get a little story in between the loading screens and stuff of what is actually happening on the map that you're playing at. And like that's what I was talking about last episode or the episode before that I want to see in a multiplayer game. I was talking about it, I know, with the TMB guys. I know Bobby and I were brainstorming about like the multiplayer game we would want to see in Overwatch. Well, guess what? It's happening now in Battlefield. And
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like we were talking about like a persistent map, like in operations in Battlefield. What happens is there's 2 points, A and B, and when the attacker captures them, it moves to the next space, and then it moves to the space after that if you capture those. And like there's 3 total zones, and you have to capture both if you're an attacker to move on, and you spawn in between. Well, we were just saying like how we wanted that to go back and forth as if it was like a sort of payload thing a couple of episodes ago. But also, in addition to the payload, it'd be kind of like King of the Hill. And like Battlefield's doing that now.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like,
nice.
I couldn't believe it when I just played it a couple days ago. I was like, damn, you're smart. Damn.
Kind of making me
I don't
want
care
to play
if it's
this.
like, even if it's a military theme, which I feel like is a drawback at this point, like so realistic graphics, like we want something more out of the game that's creative. Even though all of that, like the content is so good, and like the complexity of the actual maps and the game itself makes me just like so happy I'm playing it that I had to talk about it and be really happy.
So here's the $1 million question. Would you rather play this or more Doom?
I thought you were going to say Overwatch, and then I would be like, ah!
Yeah, Patrick hasn't played Doom.
Oh, I forgot. Okay, I'm sorry. No. I thought you...
So,
for some reason I thought you...
Doom is
like
my Overwatch.
Why aren't you playing Doom?
There's just so many games right now, and I'm in graduate school,
I got you.
I have to live.
Doom is going to have to be one of those Black Friday things that you look for. Like,
I will.
It'll probably be like $20 or something, and you need to jump on that.
I will, because I played a ton of the first Doom. I played a lot of Doom 3, which is, I don't know, the Bastard Child?
A little bit.
Weird.
I still want to play all of it.
Yeah, I could never get through the whole thing, but, the other thing that I've been very happy with, not only have I been playing games, but I've been playing them on normal difficulty, and I can't tell you how happy I am to just win.
I'm going to cue in the Final Fantasy fanfare right here. Because I feel so vindicated at this point.
Yeah, I figured on episode 100, it all should come back.
Patrick literally just said, I'm playing games the way the designers wanted me to originally play them, and I'm having a better time.
On normal mode, guys. I don't have to be...
Honestly, man, there's been some games where I'm like, I should just put this on easy. Oh, that's actually a funny story. So, when I was playing BioShock Collection, I was like, damn, I'm flying through this game. I don't know what's going on here. I remember the enemies being tougher than this, but I forgot that I had shown the game to my lovely girlfriend Jenny, and I had put it on easy for her, but for some reason, even though it was a different save file, it kept the difficulty changed to easy. So I ended up playing through the whole first game on easy and without knowing it, except for I think the first level. And I was like, oh. But it was fine because I already played this game. I just wanted to re-experience the story anyway. I just flew through, mopped up most of the achievements on my first try, and I was fine with that. A lot of these games, it's especially older games, I'm like, I should just put you on easy and just fly right through you and not even worry about it. I'm looking at you, Uncharted series.
You can put that on hard and fly through it though.
No, I don't think so. I've heard too many stories of the bullet sponginess of those enemies.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I would say with the original Uncharted, just go ahead and put that on easy. You're going to play that one for the story. The game gets much better with 2 and 3, but the original one, just get through it.
And oh my god, 4, the gameplay is so good.
Now, if they ever do that Mass Effect trilogy remaster that I've been clamoring for, on at PS4, I'm just go ahead and put that on the highest difficulty level, from the get-go, because I know that game so well that it's almost it's not a thrill anymore if I'm playing it on normal or even hard. I can't feel anything. So what games have you been playing on normal, Patrick? Has this just, I'm curious,
No, it's just mostly those. I mean, so far, I figure I'm going to play the Final Fantasy game on normal when that comes out. I picked World of Final Fantasy. I was playing the demo, I think on easy or something like that. And I don't know, it's sort of just a new mindset that I've got. This isn't really normal mode, but when I was playing Street Fighter V, I wasn't always playing ranked matches. I did casual mode a lot when I went back into it, and I felt good about losing, because I was learning more from my losses and what the people were doing to me, and watching replays than worrying about losing certain percentage points to make me the best ranked player that I could be. And I think I lost that when I was playing Overwatch a lot. I was probably playing too much to rank up, and just today they even announced in the Overwatch season 3, it's season 2 right now, that they're going to make it more fair, the skill ranking. And I was so worked up about it, losing my skill ranking because I'm losing a ranked match with 5 other people that I can't control. But I'm just, in something even that's one-on-one in Street Fighter, I'm becoming more able to deal with loss, or more able to realize, hey, I'm doing so many things in my life, I'm not going to be the best in this one thing because other people are only doing this. I should just play casual, just play normal, and be happy.
Can I just start calling you Normal Patrick as part of your name from now on?
No!
Yes.
No!
You are now Normal Patrick. How you doing, Normal Patrick?
That's the new If that ever becomes the new version of Patrick in games, I'll be so pissed.
It's just how I'm going to address you now. You're just normal Patrick now.
It's like, did you Patrick that game or did you normal Patrick that game?
No.
Oh man.
Now I gotta say though, like going back to World of Final Fantasy, cause I played the demo last week and then the game came out today and I actually had pre-ordered it. So I came in, I played it for a couple hours before we started recording. I kind of, cause most role-playing games, there's no difficulty setting. It's just the game, but World of Final Fantasy actually kind of has a difficulty setting in the sense that you can tweak enough of the settings to where it plays like an old school Final Fantasy game. By default, like the attacks are mapped to a button on like a face button, and you just like basically press like triangle to do your main attack and so forth. And then you do like combinations like L1 and a button to do like special moves. And it's like, that's all well and good. And it's like all turn-based, like straight up, like, nothing happens until you select what you're going to do. But after I played the demo, I was like, this isn't flying. So I went into the options, turned into active time battle mode where enemies attack you, while you're queuing up moves. I changed the menu to classic where it's like a straight up old school menu Final Fantasy game. And I've been getting my ass kicked. I've had 3 party wipes in the first 2 hours of the game. The game is not playing around because, the enemies, you fight a lot of them and it's like they don't do like a ton of damage per attack, but they're fast and it adds up. It's like they're only doing like, 20 something hit points of damage, but your characters have about 300 to 400 hit points starting off, and that adds up real quick. Okay, so I should back up. So World of Final Fantasy, it's this kind of, it makes a really bad first impression. Like, if you've seen the trailers, you see these like bobblehead looking characters. They look like pop figures and you're like, this is stupid, but it actually plays heavily into not only the story, but the gameplay. Because you can change your size. Because when I first saw the characters, they looked like Kingdom Hearts characters. And I was thinking, well, why don't they just make all the characters look like this? Like, if I saw the Final Fantasy classic characters done in this style, that's really cool. It's still a new look, but the actual storyline is that you go to this world where, they're littlekin, like they're all that size, and you can change forms from littlekin to a giant, which is their normal human form. And you collect enemies a la Pokemon style, but then you stack them on top of you. So like when you're small, you can stack 2 more enemies or 2 more, mirages on your head, and you get stat bonuses for that. But then if you're big, you can stack up to 3 on your head. But then if you're small, you can ride on a larger character and then have a smaller one on your head. And it affects like the way you do your attacks. It affects your hit points, your stat bonuses, your elemental resistances and stuff like that. But you can also get unstacked. Like, enemies can shake you enough with damage that you just fall apart and you're just individual characters. And at that point, you become so vulnerable because all of a sudden, you don't have 300 something hit points. Each of those characters has like 70. But the enemies are still doing the 29 or 35 hit points of damage. So all of a sudden, that attack takes one of those characters from like full hit points to half hit points, or like one-shots them. So there's a lot of strategy to this game. It is probably the most traditional Final Fantasy game to come out since like 10. And I think that people need to take a closer look at it because it deserves some respect. And it is really effing funny. Like, the script is really good. I've been like tittering and chuckling like for the first 2 hours almost consistently. I'm very pleased with it.
So
and Angelo just looks like completely like unimpressed. But Angelo, I gotta say,
gotta play it.
You gotta try this.
Okay. So what I'm thinking now is, man, did they screw up marketing this game? Like, so bad. Because everything I've seen about this game up until you were just talking about it right now has turned me off so hard on it. And now I'm hearing you talking about it, I'm like, I need to give that a shot. Is there a demo? That kind of thing.
There is.
Good.
Yeah, but honestly, the demo, I'm not sure that you should give that the shot, because I don't know if you played the demo, but it's just a very straightforward, like, I'm in Final Fantasy 13 and just moving straight kind of thing.
I would consider it more closer to Final Fantasy 1 dungeons. where there's basically a linear path, but then there's offshoots, but it's a dungeon, you know, like, and that's another thing, Angelo, is that like, they're hitting the nostalgia button hard.
Boy.
The first area that you go to is Corneria.
Oh.
But they retranslate it to Cornelia, which is what it was supposed to be. But it's literally like the town from Final Fantasy 1. And when you get to the town music is for Final Fantasy 1 town music.
I'm
and
interested.
It's like single tear.
Yep.
Like streaming down my
Yeah.
face.
Yep.
And like in the demo, you
Yep.
see all these characters that you've seen in all the Final Fantasies, and they say one line each, and you're like, well, oh, I wonder what this one's gonna say. Oh my god, he said that, huh? And he gave me this. Like, oh, of course, you know.
And the classic Final Fantasy characters are actually your summon spells. And it's like, you know, when you summon Tidus, like, you know, it's not just that he comes up. It's like the music changes to Final Fantasy X. Like the water comes up and his Blitzball shows up.
Cool.
And it's like, it's so cool. Like it's really well done. I'm not super happy with like the bobblehead look of the characters. I think they could have done something different with that. But the fact that it factors in heavily with both the storyline and the gameplay redeems it for me. If that wasn't in there, if they just looked like this for no reason, then I probably wouldn't even have played the game. But it actually is a really important part to everything. And just, it's really cool. And I think it's like about a 35-hour game from what reviews have been saying. And that's like the sweet spot. It's like, I don't want to be here for 70 hours, but I'll be there for 35.
So what,
you know,
what platform
happily.
should I get it on?
I think it's only PS4.
Is there a
Just as
Vita?
far as I know. Oh yeah, it's Vita.
It's on Vita
yeah.
also. Yeah. I heard it's the same game on the Vita. I mean,
So
It
good.
seems like the right platform
Yeah.
for it, honestly.
Play that Vita.
yeah. It might be a better Vita game for you, specifically, because you'll have more opportunities to play it.
It seems like there's a lot of grinding that you could play like on a train or something like that, and it would be perfect for it.
I think I actually have to grind before I got annihilated by the first boss twice in a row, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go level.
Dude, even
What the crap?
So
even in the demo, there's 4 boxes that you can open, and they're treasures, but the treasures are cutscenes. And then there's like one final boss that you gotta play that looks like just a square, like a 3D square, the final boss. You have to like grind before you play him. If you even like played all the random battles and gone up the dungeon the entire way in the demo. It's hilarious. It's so Final Fantasy that the demo would even have grinding in it.
Yeah. Very pleased with it.
I'll have to try that.
You should, yeah. I was glad they released a demo. Patrick, anything else that you've been hitting up?
Yeah, I'm trying to get wicked hardcore with you, Julian.
Oh, so.
How is normal
Well-
Patrick trying to get hardcore?
I'm trying to, not only am I going video games, I'm trying to go comic books and manga.
Uh-oh.
Manga?
Oh, you started reading Berserk because of Bobby, didn't you?
Yeah. No.
Berserk is so good.
I didn't get into that, but like I did find like a
Aw.
manga section at my library for like school, and I got into 2 that are called Blue Exorcist and Tokyo Ghoul. Both of them are pretty long-running series already, and they looked exactly the same. So I was like, I'm going to read both of them and see that they're exactly the same. And little did I know, they would have slight differences.
I saw the anime for Blue Exorcist. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like, Blue Exorcist, you get like this 4-leaf clover from this priest who gives it to this kid who becomes this exorcist because he's, surprise, the son of Satan. Except he doesn't like it. He wants to be an exorcist instead. He doesn't want to be
This guy.
Yeah. Yeah. That is like the closest comparison I could
call.
make. Oh, so good.
I didn't even pick up on that when I watched it.
Yeah. But just from one Blue Exorcist manga, I could totally say like the closest thing that I've seen to it is probably this guy. And it's hilarious because like he's the son of Satan, like the son of the devil in Disgaea, but he's like trying to make sure that all demons don't exist. In comparison, I think Tokyo Ghoul is actually the better manga, and it's actually in Shoujin Jump. So, like, if you want to, I don't know, be a super otaku or something like that, and you're just starting out, you should probably start with Tokyo Ghoul because it's one of those series that's like, I'm in the classic magazine that Japanese people read all the time, and the first one that I read was pretty fun because it's this kid who's like a high schooler, just like the Blue Exorcist kid. He thinks he's normal. All of a sudden, he finds out he has crazy powers because of something crazy that happened. Unfortunately, unlike Blue Exorcist, what happens to Tokyo Ghoul, the guy in it, I forgot his name, Ken Kaneki, is that he is trying to go on a date with a girl who he thinks is the love of his life at this cafe who he's just been looking at while he's reading this book for weeks. She comes up to him, bumps him. This leads to that. They start going home together. She says how she's so scared of these ghouls, and she starts hugging him. Little does he know, okay, this is a very long-running series. I'm not spoiling anything. Little does he know that when she's hugging him, she starts biting him. She's a ghoul. Oh my god, hot girl turns out to be a ghoul. Yeah, of course. It can't be everything that he hoped for. And so I just think it's like a really good manga that stands in for every social anxiety driven teen who like wants to have a girlfriend but can't and thinks that they're all like hideous monsters because none of them understand him. And if I don't know, you're just growing up or something like that, or you want to feel like you're growing up again and coming of age in a sort of like Halloween type Tokyo Ghoul world, you should just read Tokyo Ghoul.
I love stories about boys and ghouls.
Normal Patrick doesn't sound very normal right now.
Yeah, because I'm manga Patrick now.
Oh, okay.
Well,
he wears many hats.
Yeah, I'm nerdy.
Normal manga Patrick.
I like nerdy stuff.
Well, you're on the right podcast for it.
Yeah. No, those sound good.
But the second one especially, Tokyo Ghoul, was like more than a manga to me. Blue Exorcist was so pulpy. It's like, yeah, you could read this, but I would read it at the library. I would never spend $10 for this. But Tokyo Ghoul was more like a Dragon Ball kind of thing, where I was like, I can see why this is such a long-running franchise, and I should get into it if I like this kind of thing. So if it sounded like you might like it, you should definitely check that out.
Maybe watch the anime for Blue Exorcist then, because I thought it's still pulpy. It still has a filler episode or two, but it doesn't sound as bad as what you're describing, if that makes any sense. It seems to move at a better pace. Like you're sounding like it doesn't hit the story beats quick enough for you.
Yeah, probably. And I read it very fast as it was. It just seemed like it was so emotional and like melodramatic.
It's a little bit of that, but I don't think it comes across as quite as emo in the anime. Maybe it's been a while since I've seen it, so it's
no Neon Genesis Evangelion.
But what is?
You knew I had to throw that in episode 100. So
except. Well, I don't know. Are you done?
No, I mean, yeah. I think we should just start throwing all our favorite IPs into episode 100. Right?
There you go. So one of the. Do we want to go with me next? Did you go yet, Julian?
Well, I was just going to piggyback real quick off of Patrick.
Sure.
I've got a bunch of stuff, but comic book wise, have y'all heard about the new Flintstones comic from DC?
I have seen talk about that on Twitter, and it looks interesting.
Holy shit!
I didn't hear about anything. What is it?
So DC recently picked up the rights to all the Hanna-Barbera properties.
Oh, I heard
and
that.
They've been doing all of these like unique takes on those franchises. But the Flintstones one, it is not it's not your father's Flintstones by any means. It is like,
swear words?
No, it's not that, but it is very dark and it's a very bleak it's a very bleak satire of our lives seen through like the lives of the Flintstones, which I guess technically like the Flintstones cartoon was kind of a satire of the modern day anyway, but just in prehistoric form. But like, I think the second issue, everybody gets obsessed with this new thing called crap. And basically it's all about consumerism. Like it's all about like all of a sudden everybody goes to buy crap. They can't get enough crap. They have to buy more crap. And like the whole time Fred is like, I keep buying all this crap and I can't afford it, but it seems to make Wilma happy. So I guess I'll keep doing it, but I really don't like it. And it's like the more you think about it, it's like, oh, this is really, really dark. Like this makes me feel really bad about my life choices. And like then you find out, like, this is a minor spoiler, but like, at some point, Fred gets fed up with it, so he takes all the crap back to the store, and so all of like the appliances that are like animals and stuff, basically he gets a lot of his money back, but then he gets store credit, and he's like, but I don't want to buy anything else. And like, well, what about that? And it's like, and they say, oh, well, yeah, that was an appliance that was about to be recycled, meaning killed, and it's like, it doesn't do anything, but you can take it if you want, and it's Dino. Like, you realize that, like, Dino was, like, 1 second away from getting slaughtered.
Oh, wow.
If, like, it's like, holy crap, guys. And, like, the issue after that is all about, like, marriage equality, basically, because in this story, Fred and Wilma are married, and all of the all of the prehistoric people are like, no, it's all about polygamy. Like, you being married is like an atrocity, blah, blah, blah. And it's like this whole thing, and, like, then they decide that marriage is okay, and then there's these two guys like, well, we want to get married. It's like, oh, hell no, that's not happening. And Fred's like, wait, but just a second ago you said marriage was fine. And he's like, well, yeah, but that's when I was the minority.
Dude, I love that. That has the same nostalgic notes as, like, when you become older and you realize that Disney characters are more than what you first realized, or, any, like Alice in Wonderland, when you realize the other layers of a meaning in anything, or like any literature in general, when you see like things from a literal perspective and a metaphorical perspective. That's just like when you see a comic book from not only your childhood perspective, but now like an adult rewriting it as a child who has seen it and has become an adult to use it in order to talk about these special issues. That's like the best kind of writing, where you can see it so many different ways at once.
Yeah, I think you would really like this a lot, Patrick. And it's just a really interesting take on the characters. Like, you find out that, like in this version of the Flintstones, they're basically just now becoming like a society. Like, they fought in the prehistoric wars to basically create this lifestyle. So like, Fred and Barney are like former soldiers, and so there's this kind of like, not so much PTSD part of it, but definitely like they go to meetings and stuff to like kind of talk out their feelings about being former soldiers. And there's a little bit about like, vets being kicked to the curb after their usefulness is at an end and stuff like that. Like, a lot of deep stuff going on in this comic. I really recommend it. It was apparently written by the same person who did Prez, and I couldn't stand Prez. I read the first issue of that and I was like, nope, this is not for me. But this Flintstones book, I've read the first 5 issues and it's solid. So that's all I had to say about that, just going off of the comic book thing.
Well, as long as we're talking about full-fledged comics, I want to like talk about one more that I think is episode 100 worthy, and that's like a 20th anniversary issue hardcover comic that I just got called Kingdom Come. And I think you probably read it, Julian, right?
I have not, actually.
Oh,
I've
really?
heard of it, actually.
I know I need to.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I have not read it.
Just like even from reading the first there's only 4 issues of Kingdom Come, and in this 20th anniversary hardcover edition, there's a bunch of extra scripts and stuff afterwards. I can tell already just from the first issue that everybody needs to read it. It's just like The Dark Knight Returns, or any issue of comic book history that has talked about like a superhero coming back from when they have not been superheroes for a long time, out of retirement, or like after they've gotten old, and like what happens like in the future of superheroes. In addition to that, though, it's also these other superheroes who have kept being superheroes and are not that good anymore as superheroes. Like, they're all fighting each other and they're all pieces of shit. Like, sort of like Watchmen, where...
Sounds like the current state of Marvel Comics, actually.
I was going to say, it sounds like Watchmen, too, when you mentioned... Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why I liked it so much, Angelo, is because, like, it was like Watchmen to me. Like, and
Watchmen.
just in that first episode, I saw, like, Superman as if he were Owl in Watchmen, and I was like, oh my god, this is the first time I actually like Superman in the history of ever.
Wait, hold on. Back up. So these are, like, actually established DC comic book characters in this thing, Kingdom Come?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's like the JLA, except it's like 20 years ago they made this story where they all got old. And Wonder Woman comes back to Superman when he's put himself in an exile that was self-imposed, where he's like in this virtual reality that it looks like he's like in this big farm. And really, he's just like feeding these horses that are in this virtual reality that he keeps going through day after day. in order to make himself forget about what's really happening in the world. And like Wonder Woman comes in and she turns off the virtual reality at the beginning of all this, and he's like, "Stop it! You're making the horses like crazy," and they're all going crazy because they see like this grid that's like a computer generated grid, since they're in like a virtual reality of the future and stuff. And it's like, wow, how did they think of this in like the 80s?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those seminal DC story arcs that I just haven't gotten around to reading, and I really need to.
You know, the art too also looks. Yeah, I think it's only 4, but they're like 32 pages instead of 20 or something. It seems like they're bigger than they should be, at least.
I can handle that.
And the artistry though is like new as well. It looks like it's computer generated, early on computer generated stuff instead of handwritten. But it looks like it's told in a way that was like during the transition of handwritten to computer generated. So it's like a bunch of like, kingdoms coming to a head, if you will. And I think,
well, it's like early Alex Ross. So it's all like paintings.
Yeah.
It's all painted.
That's right. And Mark Waid is the guy who wrote it too. So it's well written.
Yeah. I like Waid a lot. He's writing my favorite comic book right now, which is Archie.
Right. He's good at making the old new again.
Right?
Yeah.
Flintstones, Archie, what's going on here? Jeez.
I think he also did Green Arrow at one point, right?
He's done a ton of stuff. He's written almost everything. But yeah, I'm eating the member berries very, very rapidly right now.
So this is
South Park
definitely the
reference.
time to get. I thought you were eating his writing. I didn't know.
Or his berries.
No, have you not seen the current season?
No,
Patrick,
no.
With the member berries, basically like everybody is eating these berries, and there's just like they talk. They're like, "Member Tatooine? Oh, I love Tatooine. Remember Chewbacca? Oh, Chewbacca was awesome. Remember Goonies?" And then the people eat them's like, "Oh, I remember that."
Oh my God, you can't remember the Goonies because then you have to remember Corey Feldman, and oh my God, what he's doing now is just so bad.
But you can just but if you remember Goonies, then you can just remember him that way and not what he's become.
Yeah, because now he looks like a female crossed with Michael Jackson's dead ghost.
Oh man.
As opposed to Michael Jackson's living ghost.
Yeah, well, I mean, Michael Jackson's his godfather and stuff.
I thought for a second you were going to say, well, Michael Jackson isn't really dead. I thought you were going to go there.
But I thought you knew that. No, of course he is. And Michael Feldman.
Angela, what have you been doing?
I don't know. I was just choking on Patrick's joke, so.
I was choking.
Good. I got a lot of stuff to make up for. So I was honestly on vacation for about a week. My wife and I had our anniversary, and we took a little cruise, just the two of us, a little 5-day one.
Tonsils.
Yeah, the tonsils came out before that. And then right after I recovered, we went on a cruise, and I gained all the weight back that I lost. I mean, while I was out, there was still some stuff I did. I'm still playing Grand Kingdom more than anything else.
Well, because last time you hadn't, like, you tried to play it and you really hadn't. So you went ahead and doubled down and,
Sure.
and have started playing it for
Yeah,
real?
I went back into it, and now that I have my full mental capacities, I guess, facilities, I don't know, whatever. It makes a lot more sense to me.
Both are valid.
It is still stupid deep. Like, there's so much that you can get into in this game. And you don't have to get into anything. Or, well, you don't have to get into anything. I guess you don't even have to play the game. But you don't have to get into everything is what I meant to say. But the game throws it all at you, and you kind of want to try it. And I had this really kind of, like, aging generational thing where I was looking for information on this, and, like, the wiki online is empty, and IGN said they were doing a wiki, and it has nothing in it. And then when I started doing Google search, all that was coming up was YouTube videos. Because all the kids are just putting it on YouTube. That's all anybody does anymore, is put stuff on YouTube. And I'm like, wow. And then you click on one and it's like, hey, boys and girls, remember to like, subscribe, and, welcome back to my channel. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't watch this. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
I've been getting into YouTube pretty heavily lately because I don't have cable anymore.
Yeah.
And so I've been watching a lot of YouTube stuff. And also, well, real quick, that's how I learned how to play Divinity 2, because I just didn't know how to play that game when I first started playing it, and YouTube helped me a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm planning on spinning up some YouTube stuff, but I definitely don't want to be doing I don't think you should lead with all that, subscribe, and blah, blah, blah. That should be the end of your show.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in the middle, it should be a very brief thing and then get into the whatever you're talking about.
The whole blast that people do so often at the beginning of their shows just is such an instant turn off. I don't know how else to explain it. But I've been trying to kind of put it together for myself. I picked up a few things here and there, kind of what stats to focus on when you're building your troops, that sort of thing. A lot of stuff that you would kind of miss if you weren't paying attention, how tech is a really important stat, even though it just says, it just helps you level. I'm like, well, I don't need that. I'm just going to grind. But it's no, it does other stuff too. I really hate when there's a lot of stuff that Grand Kingdom does that infuriates me. And if it wasn't that there was so much going on in this game and that I really liked it in spite of itself, I would want to throw it out a window, because it's you need to explain this stuff. You have these systems in here, and you're like, yeah, just jump in here and play around with it. I'm like, no, screw you. Tell me what this does. Tell me what I'm supposed to do in here. Don't just tell me go play. I mean, I am going to go play the game, but I want to know, when I'm putting points into different stats, what I'm actually freaking doing. And the game is really bad at that. It has I don't know how much of this was because this is such a deep game and it's so layered and it's so obviously translated from Japanese. How much of that was just, oh my gosh, there's so much to translate, and man, that must have been a project. Whoever brought that over. Sure. I mean, even with what they did, wow. Just how did you do all this dialogue and all this voice work and all this stuff to bring this game over? It's just incredible. I guarantee you most people that play this game are going to see maybe 25% of the content in it. They're probably not even going to mess with the war stuff. They're probably just going to go through the campaign and call it a day. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything this game has. I don't know how much of it I can even talk about right now because I'm still trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing.
It reminds me a bit of my experience with Valkyrie Profile, where I got about 10 plus hours into it and realized that I'd been playing it wrong the entire time and wanted to go back because I was like, oh, wow, there's all this stuff that I had no idea was in here. And if I had known that, this game would have been so much easier. And I could have been doing this so much more efficiently. Mm-hmm.
There is that, but there's no such thing in this game as wasted time and effort. I never had to restart this game, even though I did. So here's just a general thing. Your characters have all these different stats, and they have rankings that they get in those stats from F, E, all the way up to A, and then S beyond that. And basically that is how easy is it for you to put points into this stat. And all the way at S class, it's if you put 1 point at this stat in this stat, you get 2. And then the other ones, it's for every 3 points you put in this stat, you get an extra bonus point, and so on and so on. Down to F, where it takes forever to get the bonus points. Every time you hit a level that is so every time you hit a 20, 40, 60, 80, you can roll your character back down, and it will let you rank up one of those stats. So even though I may have not leveled my characters correctly, I can just bump them down to level 1. But now one of those stats is easier for me to level up because now instead of it being an E rank, it's a D rank. So now I have to.
But how easy is it to get that new level 1 character back up to where they were at? Because that was my problem with the Disgaea game.
Now that I know what I'm doing, much easier because tech helps with that, and I also can slot crystals into weapons that will also boost my tech skill, and then I just experience points right on up.
There's just got to be a tutorial where those kind of things happen easier, though, and you don't have to feel like you need to restart after learning what you need to do the first time, though.
And there isn't, and that's it drives me up a freaking wall because the game really needs to do a much better job of explaining to you like all this stuff. It's almost like at some point developers said, the internet will fix it for us. You just go online, find forums, find whatever, and people will figure this crap out. Like, no, man, I understand they couldn't give me an instruction book. This is 2016. There's no instruction books with games, but they gave me this nice, beautiful, thick art book. There's no strategy guide for me to buy. That would have been nice. I mean, I want something physical that I can like kind of read through and look through and figure this stuff out, and it doesn't exist.
I'm almost at a point where I would pay a little extra for an instruction manual.
Absolutely. I'm there too. And not a digital one, a physical one.
Yeah.
Because I want to have it next to me while I play the game, like a second screen. Oh, we had those, as it turns out, in the 80s, with our instruction manuals. Oh, what does this do? Flip, flip, flip. Got it now. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's Grand Kingdom. I'm still wrapping my head around it. I'm getting there. I will probably be able to explain it better the next time we have one of these. But one of the things I really like is you never waste time with this game. Even right now when I'm not playing, my characters are out grinding on their own. They're contributing to a war effort, and they're fighting AI-controlled battles with actual people or maybe other AIs, and gaining experience and gaining levels and gaining stats and stuff like that, which is really cool. So, and this game flew under the radar. And I don't know how, because it is so freaking deep. At least it seems that way right now.
Like, when did it release? Because it seems like people forgot about it as it happened.
I want to say it released in, like, August.
It's been a couple months.
August. Maybe a little earlier. Around there somewhere.
So it was probably because of Overwatch?
Literally the only reason that I knew about this game was because Amazon recommended it to me.
And Amazon did a good job. And you can get like the collector's edition right now for the price of like the regular game, maybe even cheaper. And you get
I actually did see it on a store shelf and I was surprised. I saw it at a Best Buy.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I would.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those games where people start talking about it like next year and go, oh man, how did we miss this? This niche game, and oh man, you better get it now, and like watch the price kind of go up. Like what happened with Nier. I have to bring it up again. Sorry.
Did the price go up for Nier? I thought that it's kind of hovered right around like the $20
When I bought
range.
my copy, it was like $5.99, and then it shot back up. So it had a dip, and then it came back.
But not like it's like $80.
No, it's not.
One of those games.
It's never been what it was new. But it's not going to be that kind of a game. It is still a niche game. Grand Kingdoms is still a niche game, but I think maybe some of that niche found it, but I think there's other people, like really heavy strategy gamers, this would appeal to them, and they might not know that it necessarily even exists. Like Julian, I swear, if you sunk your teeth into it, gave it a little time, considering like your love for like Final Fantasy Tactics and games like that, it's like Final Fantasy Tactics, but you're on a 2D plane with 3 different layers to it, and all your attacks are mini games.
Yeah, I played through the first 2 like tutorial battles, and I got a very strong like tactics vibe, but also Valkyrie profile.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that, and a little bit of a Vanillaware vibe to it as well. Not just the graphics, but kind of just the overall like style to it. Yeah, like the way the menus are done and the way like the characters are built and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily ever go over the top. And I don't want to say, like, some people got I didn't have any problems with Dragon's Crown at all. There were some people that looked at that art style and went, it's not for me. It never takes it to that level. So if you were maybe somebody who, there's some people that like when I say Vanillaware, the first thing I think of is Dragon's Crown, and I'm like, this doesn't go that far. Take a look at it. It's freaking gorgeous. It doesn't quite go to Vanillaware levels of gorgeous, but you can tell that's what they were influenced by for sure. I really like it. I'm really having a good time with it. I pop on it for a little bit every day just to like mess with my characters and stats and things like that. Even if I don't like do quests and things like that. There's so much to do in this game. Really good time. But
pop on it, Angela.
Yeah. I watched a bunch of anime. I played a bunch of tabletop games too.
Oh, because when you were out with your after your surgery, you'd asked me about Go Danner.
Yes.
And did you ever actually end up watching that?
I sure did. And as it turned out, I watched it at like the absolute opportune time. So Go Danner was the first one because I was looking specifically for stuff that was kind of like the same thing with the video games I was playing. I was like, what is the most zero barrier to entry thing I can just jump in and just like ride this thing through? And oh man, Go Danner sure is that.
And for the audience, Go Danner is a mech-based anime, but heavy on the fan service.
Heavy on the fan service. And the funniest thing is, between the drugs I was on, hold on. Yes. Which aren't that intense necessarily. And the lasting effects from the general anesthesia I went through, which this was a first for me. I've never been under general anesthesia before. My libido was at like freaking absolute zero watching this.
Okay. All
so
right.
I was able to just go through this and appreciate it on a total humor level. And I want to say it's better at that than it is at actually delivering fan service, if that makes sense.
I mean, the fan service is just the fact that there's a bunch of like big jiggly boobs.
Oh, those
like,
plug suits are legit.
I never saw it as like, this is supposed to really titillate you.
Sure.
It's not like a cutie honey situation or anything
Right.
like that. It's more of just like, yeah, these women have big jiggly boobs that defy the laws of physics.
Okay, so, and I know what you're saying, but people don't understand, like, a character will turn their head and their boobs will move for days. Like, ridiculous. And it just
Why is that wrong?
What's that?
Why is that wrong?
I didn't say it was. I said if there was any titillation to be achieved by me, it wasn't going to happen.
I'm trying to talk hashtag Gamergate.
Oh, don't do it. No, stop.
It's episode 100. You know it had to happen.
No, it didn't.
No,
it really didn't.
needs to die.
Anyway, back to this crap. So the first, and by the time I was done with the first, there's 2 seasons of it, I guess. And it really only needed to go on for 2 seasons. It really needed 1.5 seasons, honestly. I watched the dub because I wasn't in any mood to read subtitles, at that particular time. And it wasn't an anime where we really needed to be particular about the translation for it. But I almost didn't watch the second season except for how the first season ended. The second season is way better than the first season. But the first season just is like, here's a whole lot of what you're in for. Get ready for more of this. And more of this is just ridiculous silliness, fan service. Yeah, it never really crossed over. It crossed over into serious territory a couple of times. One was the very, very ending of the first season. And there were a couple of like really heavy hitting episodes in the second season. But it never really gets away from the silliness, which is kind of nice. And that's what I was looking for. So it was perfect. It's silly. Yeah. It's just silly.
And some good mech animation too. Like it's a nice looking anime.
It had high production quality for sure. There's just some stuff where it's like, really? This is the plot twist you're taking? But then you just laugh because you know that to some extent they knew that this was totally stupid and they just went with it anyway because why not? And if you go in there knowing this is where it's going to go, you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
What else did I watch? Patrick mentioned Evangelion. I watched, at somebody's recommendation on Twitter. I'm going to try and say this and butcher it. Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Most people know it as Madoka Magica.
God bless you.
Yeah, sorry. All I want to tell people on this one is it is and this is how it was pitched to me, and it is totally legit. It is the Neon Genesis, what Neon Genesis Evangelion did for mecha anime, this does for magical girl anime.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to leave it there. Highly recommended. Go watch it. But holy crap.
I have a friend that probably needs to see that anime.
Gird your loins, okay? This thing is after your emotions with like claws and fangs. So that's all I'm going to say. But very highly recommended. Really surprising. Give it 3 episodes and then try to walk away. The last one, I'm going to be quick about this one, was Gantz. You guys heard of that?
Yeah.
I've heard the name.
Okay.
That's all.
I watched the first season. The pacing is awful. Art style is unique. I would say good, and I think it's reaching for something it can't quite achieve. If you're curious about it, watch a couple episodes of the anime, but I would say everybody that I've talked to says go read the manga. It's better paced. It explains everything in a better way. So don't watch the second season of the anime. Maybe watch it a little bit to kind of get an idea of what you're in for, but stick with the manga. And I haven't checked the manga out yet, but that's the direction I'm going to head with this because the anime has some serious issues. So, although it is up to 11 on everything, within the first 2 seconds, you see everybody naked. And then 2 seconds later, you see two people get hit by a train and they literally just fall to pieces, arms and heads and stuff come off and there's stuff everywhere. So it's not for your kids. And it's not playing around at all, but manga, not anime for that one. Is what I've been told. Whew.
Such good
Very
manga.
cool.
Maybe I should take a break for now because just hold on to some of this stuff because.
I've got one last big thing to talk about, but before I move into that, I just want to give an update. So last episode, I was talking about my addiction to Dragon Quest Builders. That game is so freaking charming and it does what it does so well. And it doesn't have a timer and I wish it had a timer, but I feel I play a good 15 hours before I beat the first chapter or so. And I was loving it. I was oh, this is so great. And then when you finish the first chapter and move on to the next area, it says, be warned. When you go to the next area, you'll lose everything. You won't have any of your materials, any of the strength that you've made, or, any of your recipes. And I'm what the what? Why am I even doing this then? And it's you can't go back either. You can't travel back to that first area. Here's the chapter. You've got these objectives that you don't know about until after you beat the chapter for the first time. They intended it to be replayed. But it's 15 hours is not something I'm going to easily replay. I can probably do it. I could probably do it in 8 hours now because I know what I'm doing, but that's still 8 hours, and so I got to say that the second chapter, I haven't finished it yet, but it deflated so much of my love for that game just because I was literally just rediscovering recipes that I already knew. And then in some cases not. I got a whole bunch of bricks. I've harvested them. And then it didn't tell me all the stuff that I can make with brick that I knew before. Because there's this one item you can make where you can basically craft, you use it on a wall and let's say you built a building made out of earth. You use this item on it and it turns it into brick. So you don't have to actually tear everything down and then redo it with the new material. You can just basically transmute it into this. But it didn't give me that recipe, even though I knew it already. And I'm what the hell is even going on now? And the second chapter has the goal is you're trying to heal these patients and you have to bring them into the sick room and then they all have different criteria. You have to give them certain items and certain food and stuff like that. But that was really slowing the game down. And I was I don't think that I can play this all the way through in one go. I was planning on finishing that game before Final Fantasy 15 came out. But as it is, I think I'm just going to do a chapter at a time since nothing, is permanent. It's I can just jump in there, do a chapter for 15 hours and then leave it for a few months. Because if I try to, I feel bad for people who reviewed that game. Because if I had to power through, I think it's 5 chapters where everything resets at the beginning of each chapter, I think I'd lose my mind. And the combat isn't good enough to support that. I love the building, I love the harvesting, but then, at nighttime, the enemies get super vicious and they just swarm you and it's really hard to take them all on. And you don't really have a lot of options combat wise because you're not a fighter, you're the builder. So that's not the focus of the game, but combat is everywhere. Brad talked about this on the Giant Bombcast this last week, but it's that game is so close to being excellent. And then there's just some really dumb decisions that they made that kind of take a lot of my love away from it. And it breaks my heart.
Aw.
I still recommend it. I still think it's a great game. It's just, I don't know why they did it that way. I at least let me keep, if not my materials, then all of my recipes. Like, at least give me that.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a suspicion. I think what they might be doing is chasing the Minecraft crowd, but in a different way that Minecraft does. So the people who play Minecraft dump not tens of hours, but literal hundreds and hundreds of hours into Minecraft. And what they're saying is, hey, you can spin up a world here and do Minecraft in it, and then you can spin up a world here and then do, your Minecraft thing in it. So level 1 is just its own little world. Level 2 is just its own little world. Maybe that's what they were trying to go for? I
think so, but I guess my thing is that, okay, I guess I get why, like, my materials aren't carrying over, cause they want you to start with like a fresh inventory. Cause that way you can't just like harvest a whole bunch of stuff and be like, oh, I've got a big leg up. I can like do the best stuff. But it's like, at least let me keep my weapons and armor.
Right.
Or at least let me know that, like, why am I rediscovering how to make a straw door? I already know how to make a straw door. I just need the materials.
I would be very curious to throw this in front of my kids who are hardcore Minecraft addicts, as most kids these days are, and see what they thought of it.
Yeah, me too. I don't, and they all, I mean, I know your wife was really hardcore into Dragon Quest IX, but did they play it too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So they probably dig it, but they might have similar frustrations. I mean, one of the big things is that in each of the chapters, like the town area that you're building is relatively small. I was thinking that I was going to keep building out and out and out. Like at some point they would expand what counted as the town. But no, it's like once you get to a certain point, you're done building that town and then you move on to the next chapter.
Huh. Well, they both have Vitas. Maybe I can get them. Oh, wait. No, that's on Vita, isn't it?
I believe so.
All right.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It might be a good Christmas present.
I think they'd be pissed though. Anytime you're like building your own thing and then in the next level it all gets taken away, you feel like just part of your life was erased.
And what you did previously isn't saved? You can't go back and like mess with it more? It's just done?
Well, I mean, I have my save file, so I can go back and, cause it does a separate save for each of the chapters automatically. So I can go back to that previous chapter and do stuff. But I think if I select the chapter from the main menu, I just play that chapter again from the beginning to try to, do it faster and get those other achievements that I missed. It's a weird decision. Like,
but I would really like to see how this sits with the Minecraft crowd, because I think that's what it's going to live or die on, really.
Yeah. I mean, and it's got, if you like Dragon Quest, I mean, it's got enough Dragon Quest hooks in there to make it like just really fun. From the point, even from the factor that like the whole reason for the story is because of a choice that you are given at the end of Dragon Quest 1. Right. Like that's the whole reason this is happening. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they mention, like even though it's been a long time since I played Dragon Warrior on the NES, like I somehow when they mentioned the main character, I was like, oh yeah, that's what that guy was called. That's pretty cool. Like stuff like that is really neat. But I spent a little longer on that than I meant to, so I'll try to get through this quickly. But the big thing for Julian since the last episode is PlayStation VR. Cause I don't know, so there's something wrong with me. Like, it was one of those things, and this has happened to me in the past where it's like, I have the money, and then I see it on the shelf, and I'm like, oh, I could do that, but no, I'm not going to. And so I don't do it. And then and then it gets stuck in my head, and then I start looking at it more online like, no, I'm gonna do this. So I did it. I got the damn PlayStation VR. It's really cool.
Oh, alright.
I haven't done any VR. Like, the only thing that I've ever done was Virtual Boy. Because, like, even back in the 90s, the first time they tried to do VR, I never went to any of those, like, VR arcades or anything like that. Like, I've never seen a demo. I've never done the Oculus Rift or the Vive or anything. So this was, like, my very first experience with, like, true VR. And I gotta say, it delivers. Like, the first thing that I popped in was that diving game on the PlayStation VR Worlds. And I'll be damned if I didn't feel like I was, in this cage and looking around. And there was something very zen about it too. Cause I didn't do the shark one first. I saved the shark one for last. But the other ones, I was just like very tranquil. It's like, oh, this is really cool. Like there's sea turtles and there's fish and, here's some jellyfish coming up from below me and I'm looking down but it's very much like a ride. There's no input from you whatsoever in this particular game. But when the shark attacks on that part, it's super effective, to borrow a line from Pokemon. Like, when it takes the front of the cage off and starts, like, coming in, it feels like it's freaking coming in. And I'm scared of sharks.
Nice.
I'm scared of, you know, sea creatures. And yeah, that was something else. Actually, Jenny is deathly afraid of sharks, so I'm not even gonna try to get her to do that one.
Because you should.
No. Like, literally, like, it would probably reduce her to, like, a sobbing mess on the ground. So I'm not even gonna show it to her.
She's overcome that.
No, not like this.
Wait, did she listen to the show?
She does.
Oh, I'm in
yeah,
trouble
I
now.
told her. I told her that, like, no, I'm not going to subject you to that. I'll let her do the other 2 dives because I think she'd like that, but not the shark. And then I played London Heist, which is, you know, a lot of these early VR things for PlayStation are very much like, almost like pitches for games. Like, London Heist is like a really cool setup for a video game, but then it ends. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, if they ever make this a game, I'll probably buy it. It's so weird, right? This is a whole new realm in video games, and it's going to take a long time for both gamers and developers to wrap their heads around it. Because I'm used to a certain way of playing games, so I'm rummaging through this guy's desk looking for the way to get to his diamond that I'm trying to steal. And the guy on my headset says, "Oh, there's a guard, like, duck." And I'm like, all right, where's the duck button? Like, it's not giving me a prompt for the duck button. Not realizing that I can physically duck and it would count.
Nice.
You know, and it's like, and then, like, at some point, like, I grab the diamond, the alarms go off, and all these guards come in, they're shooting at me, and I can't see them. And again, I don't realize that I need to actually sit up a little bit, and then I can, like, see them, and then fire my gun and take them out. It took me a really long time to figure that out. You know, just little things like that. And then, like, you're in a car and your partner's next to you. You know, it's the UK, so he's on your right, he's driving. And you hear him, but it's like you have to physically look over to your right. And it's like, oh, there's a dude there. But the weird thing is that it feels like he's there. Like, they call it presence, but it's legit. Like, it feels like you're in a car with a guy. And he's talking to you and everything. And it's the strangest sensation. To the point that there's a part where you get captured and someone punches you in the face. And I flinched. And there's a challenge for not flinching at that point. And I'm like, how do you not flinch? Like, how do you not flinch there unless you close your eyes? Because it feels like a guy is trying to punch you in the face.
That's amazing.
Stop flinching.
I haven't played a lot of the stuff. Like, I got it last Friday. We're recording this on a Tuesday. I got sick over the weekend, and I don't recommend playing VR when you're sick.
No.
You're gonna have a bad time. I played a little bit of Here They Lie, literally like 5 minutes of it, and I got so sick, and I just turned it off. Like, I might try it again later now that I'm feeling better. So I played that a little bit. I played a little bit of Until Dawn Rush of Blood, which is basically like a light gun shooter for Until Dawn. But
What?
yeah, it's weird because Until Dawn is very much not that.
Yeah.
But if you played Until Dawn, like, the imagery and the stuff that's going on, like, the stuff that you see is like, oh, I'm actually in the mind of one of these characters, and this is really cool if you played all the way through Until Dawn. So it's an interesting thing because on one hand, this isn't the sequel to Until Dawn that I want, because it's literally just like a light gun game. But the stuff that I'm seeing and the stuff that I'm experiencing very much is what I want from Until Dawn. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy there. But Batman VR is so cool.
Oh yeah? Even though it's only like 5 minutes long?
It's like an hour and a half. And, you know, when they first announced it, I was like, this is such a stupid cash grab. You know, like, this is just like a glorified tech demo.
Now that you know that it is.
But it's not. Like, it's actually a really cool game. I wanted to write a review, but one thing I want to say is that we get tired of people rehashing the origin. You know, like, we've seen it. You know, like, in Batman v Superman, it's like, we didn't need to see Bruce Wayne's parents killed again. But it's a whole different story when you're Bruce Wayne as a kid. It affected me emotionally. Like, when I looked down and saw his mother, like, it affected me emotionally. Cause you're from his perspective. Like, you feel short. You feel like a small kid, and it feels like it's happening to you. And it's amazing. And, you know, just going through, basically you're just trying to do, like, you're trying to solve a case. And they do some of that weird stuff that they introduced in Origins and then Arkham Knight where, and I never liked this because I don't understand it, where, like, basically he's coming up with, like, holographic reproductions of what happened, but I don't know how he could possibly do that just based on a body sitting there. But you're trying to figure out clues and stuff like that. And in typical Rocksteady fashion, like, they go deep into, like, the psyche of Batman. And they're, like, it is secretly the scariest game that I've played in years. Like, because of the VR. Like, there's stuff that happens in that game that I don't want to spoil. I don't want to talk about it. And it's not going to play for you if you're watching the video. Like, I think you could go watch a whole YouTube video of the entire game. And it'll be like, oh, whatever, that's fine. But when you experience it firsthand, it's a whole different story. Like, I came away really jazzed about the VR stuff, but I'm also a little worried that I might end up getting sick from it because both Until Dawn and Here They Lie, like, made me feel a little messed up. And I don't know if it's because I was sick at the time or because I might be susceptible to VR sickness. And I hope that's not the case because if I did, I wasted a lot of money. But, it's a really cool thing. I want to play around with it some more. I'll definitely be talking about it in upcoming episodes. And, you know, it's weird because, like, Sony has kind of not hyped it at all. Like, I know it's sold really well. Like, they sold through all of your units and, you know, you can still find them trickling out. But it's like, I have yet to see a kiosk where you can go try this thing. And that's what they need to do. Cause you need to be able to experience it. And, you know, there aren't really a lot of ways to do that.
That would be a really good way to start a pink eye epidemic.
Yeah, you know, and they've said that before, but I mean, they've been doing these demos at, like, Penny Arcade Expo and E3 for the last couple of years. So, you know, I think it's just like, you just need to, if you're going to try one and you don't wear glasses, then, you know, wipe it down before you use it. You know, I think that's kind of common sense. But yeah, I really, like, there's people that I need to invite over so that they can see this thing because it's like, it's really cool. So.
I did have one more thing I wanted to kind of throw out there before we moved on, if that's okay.
Sure.
I wanted to mention that I would be going to my first convention next year.
Excellent.
It is not
the final pantsless nerd to pop his convention chair because I did mine last year.
It's not the typical convention, and that's kind of out of necessity, because not everybody in my family is a gamer. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going to BGG at Sea. I was kind of secretly hoping my first convention would be a video game convention, but that's not going to be how it is. It's going to be a board game convention instead, which is fine. I'm excited about this. But the whole family is going, and myself and one of my kids are going to be going to the actual convention. The other two are going to be doing other things because there's tons to do apparently on the biggest cruise ship on the planet right now. Which is the Harmony of the Seas from Royal Caribbean is the one it's going to be on. There's only a few cabins left available, so if you want to hang with me, go register quick because it's probably going to fill up pretty soon.
What code should they put in?
What's the promo code, Angelo?
There's no promo code. Let me know on Pixelbit if you're going. That's the promo code, and I'll say hi. I don't know.
You gotta press contact us, email them saying Angela Grant sent you.
Yeah. If you go to the Board Game Geek website, that's where it's from, BGG at Sea is Board Game Geek. If you go to their website, there's forum posts about it, and you can go to the store on the website and buy either the whole package if you want, which is, you know, the room and the passes, or you can just buy the passes and book the room yourself, which is what we ended up doing because not everybody in our room is going to be going. So far it's been working out pretty well, but I'm pretty excited about this. Obviously you can't really do a video game convention at sea. It's just not going to work. Hauling all that equipment out there and all that stuff just isn't the same as a bunch of people coming on with packing their board games and their luggage and everybody coming together and like having a convention. So this makes sense. And my wife likes cruises and she probably wouldn't like lurking around a convention hall that she's unfamiliar with. So, that's what I'm doing. And it'd be really cool if other people were there that I could say hi to.
And when is this?
This is in March of next year.
Okay.
But really register now because it's filling up already. I think the convention itself is almost fully booked right now. So hopefully it won't be fully booked by the time this goes live. And the ship itself is almost sold out.
Do you know if Lance from Tasty Minstrel Games is going?
Oh, I gotta ask him. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, you should.
I'm not going to do that now. We're on the show. As soon as we're off the show, though, I'm sending him a message because that'd be really cool.
Yeah, you should.
Kind of like say hi to him.
Yeah. Excellent.
Good idea.
Well, I guess that does it for Consumption Junction, which means that we're moving on into Chrono Crossing.
Can't wait.
So cue that music.
It is the year 2005. The treacherous Decepticons have conquered the Autobots' home planet of Cybertron. But from secret staging grounds on two of Cybertron's moons, the valiant Autobots prepare to retake their homeland.
And yes, we are Chrono Crossing to the year 2005. I'm not going to do the voice because I have likely already put in the sound clip from Transformers the Animated Movie at this point. But yeah, who wants to go first? This was a big year. Angelo? You smiled?
I'm terrified to go first, actually.
Yeah.
I don't even know. There's gosh, I narrowed it down to 4 and I'm still not sure which one's my favorite. I think I know which one I'm going to go with, but I don't know if it's really my favorite pick.
You're so right. This is one of those years where I played 30 to 40 games probably that came out this year and could pick 5 to 10 of them and be happy.
So this is a weird year for me because I did not have a PlayStation 2 and we're getting into that era where it's this has PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360/PS3 launch titles.
Well, Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. That generation is basically getting its start right now. So I had a very limited library, back basically when we were doing this.
Mm. You had 3DS/DS, right?
I had a DS. Honestly, the game that I pulled a DS game and I pulled a Game Boy Advance game for my short list and a PC game and another DS game. Those are my pulls. Those for my short list. And I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick still. I know, but it's still one of those things where I have to look at it and go, is that really my choice? Holy crap.
Well, do you guys want me to go first?
Sure.
Then?
If you pick Meteos.
One thing that I've been remiss in mentioning in this segment, I guess because we've been to pretty recent times, but kind of talking about where we were at, at times and what was going on. Cause I had meant to mention it after 2009, but from 2009 and back is because 2010 was when I got my first girlfriend. So it's a lot of things changed for me the way that I spend my time. But prior to that, that's when I was just playing games all the time. And so 2005 is a weird year for me. It's actually a really sad year for me. It's the year the Game Fellas closed. But we are getting to that point now, after this where it's going to be those times where it's like Patrick, I just play everything. So it's going to be a lot harder for me to narrow stuff down. This was a big year. There were a lot of games. I already had it locked in. I just kind of wanted to make sure that it did come out this year, and I thought it did. But I still looked at the list just to see, and I was like, oh man, there is Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow this year. There is Shadow of the Colossus this year. There was Resident Evil 4 this year. But my pick is one that is going to shock a lot of people, and I have a very specific reason for it. But it's Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
No, that's a good pick. That's a very good pick.
Then you should have picked Rocksmith.
No, because I haven't played Rocksmith. Guitar Hero 1 specifically, because I could have picked 2 and 3. I liked those games a lot. I didn't play them after that. But, Guitar Hero 1 has a very special place in my heart. Because first of all, it was my introduction to this type of music. Classic rock, I dabbled with Pearl Jam and stuff when I was in my teens and stuff like that. But this was where I started to get exposed to Ozzy Osbourne, and Boston and stuff like this.
Nice.
The music in the first Guitar Hero I love. And I love the fact that it's not the masters, like they're covers of all the songs. So I didn't even hear these songs like as they were originally recorded for the first time in a lot of cases. But I have a special place in my heart for those versions of it because they re-released the original Guitar Hero for 360, but they got the masters and I didn't want to play it because I was like, no, I want to play like the original Guitar Hero. Yeah. And now I do that here in my game room because I have it hooked up. But so there's that aspect of it. But the other thing was that in the Ashes of Gamefellas, like, we would go over to my friend Ryan's house who worked with me at Gamefellas, and we would have like Guitar Hero parties. And this was always the focal point of any of those get-togethers. Everybody was playing Guitar Hero. And then this was also the year that I moved out on my own for the first time. So I would have people over and we'd play Guitar Hero just for hours. And so it's a very, very specific, special set of memories for me. And that's why it's on this list. Like there were games on here that are better. You know, like I was like, oh, God of War 1. Yeah. Oh, Shadow of the Colossus. But no, it's gotta be Guitar Hero for those reasons.
I can identify with that a lot because I play Rocksmith, which is Guitar Hero if you hook up a real guitar. And I think that there's a lot to be said for even if you don't get the real notes, if you're hooking up like the guitar as you were, and you're getting like the way that you're supposed to strum something, when you first feel that rhythm like I do and like you did, you can feel more close to a song than you ever have before.
Yeah. It's like I would listen to these songs, like I bought a lot of these songs for my personal collection after playing it. And it's like when I listen to them, I pick them apart because like, oh, I remember that part. You're like, when you play this on Expert, you're playing every single note of that. It's really cool. You know, and it's like, I remember that. Like I dissect them that way. And I think it's a really cool aspect of it.
Yeah. I didn't really get into this stuff until Rock Band because it seemed, and this is going to sound kind of like an elitist thing to say, and I hope it doesn't come across that way, but it seemed too abstract for me.
No, there were like a lot of guitarists who were like, oh, I can't play it, like Slash.
Right.
From Guns N' Roses, he would say, I cannot play guitar.
But I'm not a guitarist. That's the thing. Guitar is one of the instruments that I dabble with, but I wouldn't say I'm even an amateur guitar player. Like I know a few chords and I fool around with it. I would say I'm an amateur drummer, and that's why when like Rock Band came out, it kind of, the drums bridged the gap between the abstract nature of the game and the actual real nature of the game. And all of a sudden after that, the guitar clicked for me. Mm-hmm. So I had no experience with it before Rock Band because the drums are like half true and half abstract when you play them on Rock Band. And then it kind of like got my brain used to this whole, oh, this is like a simulation of this. And then blam, everything else just sort of worked. And then it became real fun. But it didn't really click for me until then. But I think going back, I'd probably get a real kick out of playing that game. I remember trying it and thinking, oh, this is okay, but it's not really clicking with me. So
I think no matter who you are, whatever entry level is comfortable to you, you will feel the same way as like all three of us do, whether it's Rock Band, whether it's Guitar Hero or Rocksmith. I think you just need to enter into that world of creativity and like music. And once you're in there, if you really like it, you're going to not stop ever.
There's so this good. Whole, it gives you that whole like fantasy of I am on stage playing with freaking Boston right now.
Yeah.
You know, I am playing with the Who or whatever, you know, dream band you've always wanted to play with. You can do that, or at least feel like you're doing that. Yeah. And that's real cool when that actually works.
Literally just today, my first guitar that I have not been using for a while since I got my Gibson and Epiphone Les Paul, we switched it, and my girlfriend Paige is playing it. Literally today, she played it with Rocksmith, and she, like when she was playing Ballroom Blitz, or when she was playing whatever song it was, she played a few of them like on only 50% difficulty, 50% speed. She was so happy, and like I just loved her so much, seeing her jump around the room and playing the notes that, at least half of the notes she was supposed to play. And it was just like so fulfilling, not only to her, but to me, and seeing like, yeah, this is what she is now, but damn, she like got way better at it quicker than I did.
Real talk, there's only one song I will actually sing on Rock Band, and it's Ballroom Blitz. Because it doesn't matter. Like, just be freaking ridiculous and have a blast with that song and nobody cares. Like, throw your voice in a falsetto and screw it up for a week. Just have fun. And that's exactly what I do with that song. Just
run to a ballroom blitz.
Everybody's laughing and having a blast with it.
So what did you have a blast with in 2005, Angelo?
Oh boy, you're gonna make me choose. So
yeah,
my choice is fitting with the time of year. It is the exact opposite of the game you guys picked, and it is the PC game that was on this list.
You don't know what I picked.
Oh, it's probably not this. I'm pretty sure it's not this. It is so weird because, again, this list is kind of showing me how I am way more into first-person shooters than I thought I was.
First-person shooter during this year on PC, there were so many good strategy games.
Fear, though.
Oh,
yeah.
This goes with the theme.
Yeah, it does. Dude, Fear. Okay, so Fear had that weird little creepy girl that would just randomly pop up and do like creepy weird little girl things. But the shooting was also super good. Like, it really was a very good, solid first-person shooter game. I want to say there was like a gap between this one and the next one that I really got into. When did Halo come out? I want to say there was...
Halo was 2007 for Halo 3?
Yeah, so there was a gap there between the two. The first Halo. And I think that's the thing, is it's like, I'm not really like a first-person shooter obsessed person. It's almost like anime. When a really good anime comes out, it's like, I have to watch this and I absolutely love it. But like all the mediocre stuff just falls right off.
Right.
Fear is a very good first-person shooter. And it has that whole like freaky element to it. It still works. I don't know what else to say about it. Have either of you guys played it?
I have not. I've always been confused about what Fear is because, yeah, it's got the creepy girl, but then everything else that I see seems like it's your typical, like, first-person shooter where you're fighting guys with guns.
And it is.
Yeah, it's like that a lot mixed with, The Ring, and I was very scared of The Ring at the time, so I played, like, probably the first half of it and got too scared to play the rest of it, but I at the time I did like it, and I think depending on the age that you are and the hardware that you're used to, it can be a very good horror game. Although I'm not sure how it's gonna, age. I think it can age really well with like an H2 remake on a VR system. But like which games are going to be the ones that the generation after us remembers? It's going to be the ones that developers repurpose and port for the VR systems. So there's going to be this, maybe there's going to be a new Vanishing of Ethan Carter, any of those like first-person games that recently came out that the developers still want to make more money on with like a quick port. A lot of those are going to be like the scariest games that there are, like Outlander. No, it's not Outland.
Oh, Outlast.
Outlast.
That
could be one. Yeah, that's a horror one that's going to be even scarier because it works so well with VR.
Well, that's kind of what I meant to get at when I was talking about PSVR, is that I don't know if that's going to be the case. When I was playing Batman, not to get too far afield, it's one of those games where you don't move around in the space. Like, you basically warp from point to point. Like, you can look to your right or left and you can see where you can go. You hit a button and then you're there. And I was like, that's really weird. Like, why don't they just give me like full control? But then I played Here They Lie, and having full control in VR, there's something about it that made me want to throw up almost instantly. And I don't know if it's because the game itself isn't well made enough. Like, it's going to be a problem that they have to solve. But like, the idea of like Resident Evil 7 being fully VR compatible, like, as it is now, I don't want that. It's going to be like, they're going to have to basically learn everything from the ground up again. So I don't think that they can just take existing experiences and then slap VR on there and expect people to like it. I think that's what people think they want, but then that's not going to be what they end up really enjoying.
I think I was listening to a podcast recently where somebody was coming on who was a developer, and they said that they solved that problem. And it has a lot to do with if you are using a controller to move around and your head isn't involved at all, it makes you get nauseous. But if you make it a requirement to move your head even a little bit to get the perspective to shift, then you don't get nauseous.
That's interesting because that's how I was playing Here They Lie, was like you're moving with the left stick, but then you're moving you're looking around with your head.
Yeah,
but that I was just like throw up in my mouth.
But I think even the movement has to be somehow tied to head movement, like even movement forward and back. I think that's what he said has something to do with, you have to initiate it somehow other than just moving your thumb.
Right.
Like
that makes a lot of sense then.
More motor centric for that.
I'm not sure if this is the reason, but I heard that one of the biggest problems with the motion sensitivity is when you look down, you see your hands like jiggling a little bit and moving to one side or the other. So hopefully they can fix that with what you're talking about.
That's not an issue. It's weird to see your hands. Like, what I don't like are the games where it's only your hands and there's not like a body connected to it. Like Batman does that. London Heist does that. But then Here They Lie, that's one thing that I did like, was that you look down and you see a body. You know, like you see like feet and legs and like your arms, like your hands are attached to arms. And so it feels like you're actually inhabiting a person instead of like just these like weird hands that are floating in midair.
And I think that's what it'll be like a lot growing into the future with these VR systems. But that's also why like I didn't get one right away, because I feel like by Gen 2, they're all going to have bodies, you know?
Yeah, I think we're going to see, they're going to, like, I don't know if, like, they're going to necessarily make a brand new headset for, like, PlayStation right away, but I bet that they're going to do a new camera and a new Move controller in the next few years. Because I can already see that where those can be improved, like, right off, you know, without having to fix the headset.
You know, just real quick idea. I'm just wondering what you think is going to be the most valuable from this first generation of VR, including, like, the hardware. What's going to, like, be really expensive and they didn't make enough of in, like, 20 years from now?
Oh, I don't think any of it is.
No.
Like, I think this stuff is going to be super cheap, like, later on.
Okay.
Because there's going to be so many iterations on it so quickly that the only reason people are going to want this stuff is because they're just, like, video game antiquers.
Sure.
Like,
not even any, like, special game like Panzer Dragoon, Orta 2, 3, 5.
I mean, there might be a game that comes out that they do that with, but I mean, you know,
they'll port it if it's good enough. Like, we're at that stage where we don't have to rely on the physical media being able to be played anymore. I don't even think any of these VR games are available in any physical form.
No, they are.
Okay.
Like, I have discs
I'm sorry.
I saw pictures.
Yeah. But they're not all, like, there's a lot of games that aren't on disc. Like, you go to Best Buy and, like, you might only see, like, 5 or 6 titles, but there's, like, way more than that. And I think there's more discs than that, but they're just not stocking them all. So it's a weird thing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we've gone far afield.
Can I just say one thing real quick? My short list also included Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow.
I actually thought that would have been your pick.
It was the one I was really fighting with for fear. Mario Kart DS and Legend of Zelda Minish Cap were also on there, but honestly, Legend of Zelda Minish Cap wouldn't have been my number one.
Dawn of Sorrow is my favorite Castlevania game.
Dawn of Sorrow is a freaking... it is probably the best one.
It's one of the few that I've actually beaten. It's really good.
Yeah, it's excellent.
I still think that Symphony of the Night is my favorite, but I think a lot of that has to do with just how much I love that game. And I think
it's the time and the place.
Right, and I think Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow is a better game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played like the DS games before I played Symphony of the Night, and when I played Symphony of the Night on the Vita, I was like, if this could just be 30% faster, I would really like it.
My only complaint about Dawn of Sorrow was the whole draw the emblem on the screen thing. I was not a fan.
Yeah, it was gimmicky. Patrick,
say it.
Shadow of the Colossus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
My guess
that's
too.
the first time. Actually, it's not the first time I've guessed it, but I wasn't sure. But I felt like, well, I guess I would have thought either that or God of War, because both of those are like PlayStation exclusives. Like, they're very synonymous with the system. And also, like, you know, we're talking 2005, so this is like getting towards the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle, but it was still pumping out games like this, you know, because even after this, we had Final Fantasy 12 and God of War 2, which are some of the best looking games on the system. So it's like, there was still gas in the tank at this time, but, you know, the PlayStation 2 was already
Yeah.
5 years old.
But
at this
I also
point.
think if we're talking about Patrick, you have to give. If we're talking about normal Patrick, you have to give it to the more artsy title.
Right. And I think that's why I was leaning more towards Colossus.
Actually, that's why I had to give it, because I was like, what do they want me to say? But the other two that I was thinking between are not the artsy title. I leaned this way and picked this way in the end because I thought that's what you wanted me to pick. But my other two were not like PlayStation games. They were Resident Evil 4, which, well, it did come out on the PS2 at the end of the year. But at the beginning of the year, it was a GameCube game. And I had GameCube at the time, so that was better. But also, like, my DS, and I wasn't joking earlier when I just started yelling out Meteos. Because I really
that's
like
a good game.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like Luminous.
If you got the thing about Meteos is you had to have another person to play it with. And that's when that game really shined. When you were like throwing like planets at your opponent or whatever. So good.
And see,
also the final creation of Game Boy creator Gunpei Yokoi.
Oh,
rest in peace.
Right. That was his last game.
Yep.
What else did he make?
Well, he created the Game Boy hardware, but also he was the lead director / designer of Super Metroid. So I've got mad respect for that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Yeah, that's like one of the best games ever. And
Yeah.
And then he created the Virtual Boy and was basically shunned out of Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah,
but after that, he made the Wonder Swan, which is an amazing handheld that we did not get in the US.
Yeah.
So
there's also the fact that we don't even know what to say except for Metroidvania, and he's partially responsible.
sure. Yeah.
Patrick's just trolling me at this point.
He actually had a very heavy influence in a lot. Like, he, in a very indirect way, influenced the DS because of a lot of his designs that went into back when Nintendo did those LCD style handhelds, the Game & Watch games. Like,
and really, if we want to get really like deep, he's also he's still influencing Nintendo because like his whole thing with the Game Boy was I need to create this hardware to be as cheap as possible, but also accomplish my goals. And it's like they're still doing that to this day.
mm-hmm.
You know, like they always go for affordability over, you know, graphics power.
Now he did make the Mario Land, right? The first Mario Land was him?
Oh, really? That was really good. There's a bunch of...
I'm not sure.
I think that was him, and that's why it's so different.
Yeah.
Might be.
No matter who it was, I think we should call attention to Mario Land and all the unused enemies that should be brought back for like the newest Mario Switch game.
Not until they acknowledge Mario 2.
Yeah.
Then they can acknowledge Mario Land. Anyway, let's expand more on Shadow of the
More
Colossus.
snippets
That's why
and
we're here.
Birdos.
Okay, yeah. Shadow of the Colossus is to Ico what Mario 2 is to Mario 1.
I'll give you that.
That's fair. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was actually really good.
Actually, I would I would say it's more like Mario 3 to Mario 1 because you can definitely pick up the spirit of Ico more in Shadow. Well,
I mean, they play completely differently.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
The aesthetic is there. Like, you can look at Shadow of the Colossus and say, this looks like something that the people who made Ico made.
Yeah.
You know,
I would
Sorry, I
say
said Ico.
take
It's
this out
Ico.
because that sounds silly, but nah. Yeah.
It's just so good, and honestly, I wish that I was like as hyped for The Lost Guardian or whatever. I don't even care what it's called anymore. I don't even think I'm gonna buy it.
Oh, really?
Not until it's like very cheap. Fuck them.
Ooh.
Because it took them so long, or
Yeah, and I just don't feel like any of it's innovative.
Well, that's gonna come out as the game itself comes out. That's the only way we're gonna find that out. But
Yeah. So if it is, then I will get a third game this holiday season. But as it stands, it's only Final Fantasy 15 and Battlefield for me. Because like these Battlefield maps are everything that I wanted to be in multiplayer, and then Final Fantasy is most of the stuff I wanted to be in single player. And yeah, you can maybe add more stuff, but I'm not sure what it's going to be until it already happens. And it was the same way for me with Shadow of the Colossus back in 2005, guys.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when Shadow of the Colossus came out, I didn't like it at first because of the controls. Like, I felt that the controls were fighting me every step of the way. But then as I started to play it more, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Because I've been trying to climb this really huge thing. Like, this shouldn't be easy.
Yeah.
You know, like, it makes you feel like you're hanging on for dear life. And I've heard people say negatively about The Last Guardian that the controls feel like they're fighting you. But I'm like, well, that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah.
So, like, I would almost kind of want that, because if Trico is supposed to be this animal that, like, has its own will, then you should be trying to wrangle it a little bit. And so I kind of want that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to be an issue for me, but I can see why. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that Shadow of the Colossus was the huge seller that it was, because it is so esoteric. That game sold bonkers for that time period. Like millions of copies.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know what it sold, but I'm thinking it in terms of like the Adam Sandler movie where he pretends to like be a nerd and he plays Shadow of the Colossus. And I'm thinking to myself, like, in terms of my mom getting it from me for my Christmas present and me just playing it in my basement by myself and loving how every single level is the manifestation of a boss battle, and the level is a boss, and you have to, like, climb the level or the boss as it happens, and they're, like, one and the same. And I to this day, I have not seen a game that, like, hits the same itch that game hits for me. I love boss battles, and I think that game is entirely boss battles. It's completely what I probably wanted in a game at that time. And if they could only merge that with, like, platforming greatness from Nintendo, from like, I don't know, either Mario or even platformers like Rayman or like Legend of Zelda, it would be like the best game ever. And at least, like, to me, this game in 2005 was half of the best game I could ever imagine.
Excellent. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It very well could have been on my list. That's one of those, again, going back to like the time period. Like, I have very fond memories of playing that in my first apartment.
Yeah.
And and just like, oh, like I can do this. Well, I mean, it's not that I didn't have, like, it's not like I had restrictions when I was living with my mom, but there was something about just being able to like turn it up and not have to worry about that, and not have to worry about being up until 2 a.m. because like I was just doing that, and it was a very special time.
And honestly, also, I think that you wanted me to pick this game, so I felt like I had to.
This is another one of those things where it's like you're putting way more thought into it than you need to. Just pick what you want, Patrick. Like,
but I also wanted to pick what you wanted me to pick, so I picked it.
I didn't want you to pick. I just wanted you to pick a game from 2005.
That's how right this game is for this year.
Well, again, one of the things that I love about Chrono Crossing is that I can pick my game, and then I still get to talk about the other games that I love because other people pick them. So Casey chose Jade Empire. And he says, that was the beginning of my long love affair with BioWare, and still probably remains their most unique game. Combat was simple but stayed fun the whole game, and the world was such a unique mix of fantasy, steampunk, and kung fu. And that was my first exposure to BioWare as well. I actually picked that game up because it was backwards compatible on the 360, and I was excited about Mass Effect, but I'd never played any of their games, and I got Jade Empire for cheap, and I really loved it. And it's one of those where it's like, it's on my short list of games that needs a sequel that didn't get one. So I'm glad that Casey picked that. Michael117, he says, we all know Resident Evil 4 is the only real choice and all other games just fighting for second place, even though, but none of us picked it, Michael, so. But he says, since I know Resident Evil 4 is guaranteed to get a mention, I'll pick Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Stealth is my favorite genre, and Chaos Theory is one of the better games in the genre. The level designs are excellent and hold up to this day, with each one having a distinct theme and unique atmosphere. The stealth mechanics are also robust, well thought out, and polished. The combination of being able to play the entire game non-lethal and having a story and level designs that work together to nail the feeling of solo infiltration all come together to create a game that is super entertaining for people who want a stealth game that's all about espionage and sabotage. Indigo Prophecy and Condemned Criminal Orange are also amazing 2005 games. Remind people that they exist and don't let them be lost to time. And Indigo Prophecy was another one that was like, oh snap, Indigo Prophecy.
Right?
Like, damn. I have not played the Splinter Cell games, but I always remember Chaos Theory because Dan Shu of EGM fame got so hardcore into the multiplayer on that one. He would talk about it all the time. And then, of course, on Twitter, we got a few more entries. John Golson, friend of the show, who you can find on Twitter @Golson. This is also his first entry to any of our interactive segments, so I'm glad that he finally got on board. He says going to have to give it to Resident Evil 4. And I'm glad somebody mentioned it, because goddamn, Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I talked about it on Nerds Without Pants, but when they did the HD re-release on Xbox 360, I played it. And, I hadn't played the game since 2005. It's one of those things where I played it when it came out, loved it, and then never went back. And that game holds up.
Mm-hmm.
It is a fantastic Resident Evil game. I would say it's probably Resident Evil 1, GameCube remake, and then Resident Evil 4 for me, as far as like my favorite ones in the series. So really glad that somebody mentioned it, because I was starting to get a little worried. The dude Esquire, once again, at Jurisdudents. Patrick, you'll love this, but you probably won't understand. I mean, you probably will be scratching your head. He says FIFA 06.
Yeah! Why?
So,
Why?
It's just a Twitter. It's just a tweet, so that's all he said.
I was gonna say, is there like an Ultimate Team back then that they started or something like that? Because I think that's a little early for a FIFA game to be best of the year.
If he's a little younger and he was playing it in college, like, I might just have like a lot of fun dorm memories or something like that.
It's like Bomberman.
Yeah. Philip at PK Becker, who we also know as Transmet over at the site, says Burnout Revenge.
Oh, that was one of the ones that I was thinking of, but I wanted to backtrack for Resident Evil 4 for a second, Julian. I muted myself because I was too happy, I think, for a second, or too sad. To not have heard Resident Evil 4 earlier, because that was one of the three that I was thinking of between. It was, I don't know, a reinvention of the franchise, and I know how much you like Resident Evil, and to an even more casual fan, like, to me, that probably is the scariest of all of them. Maybe there is the Resident Evil 1 remake for GameCube, but, like, the two of them are, like, 1 and 1A as far as, like, what is the best Resident Evil game, and if you care about survival horror, like, that's gotta be the best game of the year.
It was definitely on the short list for me. In another year, it definitely would have been, but I just have so many fun memories of Guitar Hero that I would have felt really bad if I didn't pick it as my game.
No, you're right. Like, growing up and just, like, living through 2005 is like, you can be in a portal that is only 2005 that you never get out of, and you could be happy with, like, the hundreds of games that came out this year that were all on the, like, same level of great quality.
Yeah, it was a very strong year. Angelo, you had kind of gone back and forth with Philip, but was Burnout Revenge the second game?
Burnout Revenge was the fourth one.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I've only played Burnout 1 and 2.
And I forget the name of the Burnout 2, but it had a subtitle. Then Burnout Takedown, Burnout 3 Takedown, and then Burnout 4 Revenge, and then Burnout Paradise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paradise is when I first got into it, and then I, like, backtracked and, like, played the ones after that as well. But, like, I loved the crashing aspect that was in some games, and then, like, the just tumbling aspect that was in other games. And then there was, like, the realistic aspect.
The crash minigames in that.
Yeah.
Far and away the best in the series.
That's the only thing that I did. I didn't race. I only played crash mode.
Because there was something for everybody. If you just wanted to do that, or if you just wanted to, like, actually be a Need for Speed guy, or if you just wanted to be Forza Horizon, I guess.
No, there's none of that. There's no Forza Horizon in here.
Okay, give me
there's definitely
everything.
like Need for Speed. There's definitely like car combat in it. But I think like I just thought like the racing was strongest in Burnout 3 because Burnout Revenge made it a little bit. It added some stuff that I think made the racing a little less interesting and less challenging. But then at the same time, the crash mode in 4 was freaking the best. It was the best in the whole series, so I can give him that one, sure.
The last one we have is from the TNB podcast again, at TNB Pod, and he echoes you, Patrick. Shadow of the Colossus.
Fuck yeah.
Talk about a game changer. Between the beautiful scenery, surreal environments, and exceptional boss fights, this still holds up as one of my favorite games of all time. And he says, I'm even getting Last Guardian, which may be a Duke Nukem.
Yeah, I feel like you can never buy it just because it is Duke Nukem forever.
We don't know that. I think it's going to be fine. I don't think it's going to be the greatest game ever made, but I also don't think that Ico and Shadow of the Colossus are that either. I think they're great games.
Yeah.
But they're great for their time and for what they are. But, Yeah, like there's wonderful things to take from those games, and they also have some issues. And I think there's going to be wonderful things to take from Last Guardian, and it's going to have some issues.
Even though it has issues, though, Shadow of the Colossus, I would say, will in the end be better than Last Guardian. Last Guardian will probably be better than Eco, but I think that Shadow of the Colossus will have those like random niches that you find in the middle of the game, like Super Mario 64, where like there's this coin that you didn't even know existed, but 14 years later, someone figures out there might be a way to get it. Otherwise, like it's crazy and impossible to get to. But like there are things like that in Shadow of the Colossus where like you can see it, but it's not as hateable. Like there are things in the background that like are supposed to be things that you can get to, but you can't, or like things that people think you could get to, but the developers didn't necessarily say. And it's just like one of those commentaries between a developer and its user that make you feel like this is true art.
Yeah, I mean, go on YouTube and look at like people talking about the 13th Colossus.
Yeah.
And like all of the like expeditions of people trying to find it, and it makes you feel like people looking for Atlantis or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's that type of thing, but in video game form. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That's gonna do it though for Chrono Crossing.
The best Mario Kart came out this year.
DS. Yeah, it's a good one.
It's the best
I was thinking of that too.
That's all. I'm done.
The best Mario Kart is the first one that you played, whatever that is.
I played,
so it's Super Mario Kart.
The first one I played was the Super Nintendo. I think DS is still the best one.
I mean, there's so many games we didn't even mention that are PC based and they're like strategy based, like Age of Empires 3 or Empire Earth 2 or something. Like, there's so many good ones I want to talk about.
But we don't have time because we are done. Thank you to everybody who contributed on this epic episode 100. Can't believe we've been doing this for this long, guys. Like, triple digits. Like, I feel bad about the numbering system that I used for the files because now it's going to be all strange. Because I didn't even think that we'd ever get to triple digits. So now it's going to, like, be all weird in my listing.
Can't stop, won't stop.
We won't. We'll actually be back soon. And for stage select, we want to know what is the number one thing that you want to see for from the Nintendo Switch. And of course, we'll be Chrono Crossing to 2004, which I believe is another good year. I gotta go back and look. This one I'm not too sure on, but I know there's some good stuff there. There always is. Mm-hmm. As always, you can go to pixelbit.com and comment on the show thread there, or you can tweet at us at NWPcast. You can also find all of us on the Twitter. Patrick.
I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too. What's your damn Twitter handle?
It's at some boss.
Angela.
I'm at a roguish ham.
You can find me at Julian_Titus. And then one last little piece of business. I went ahead and started a Twitch stream or a Twitch account for Nerds Without Pants. It's just Nerds Without Pants on Twitch. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm probably going to end up streaming my entire playthrough of Until Dawn on Halloween night, because I'm planning on playing the whole thing in one sitting. So possibly look forward to that. I'll let you guys know on Twitter.
I'll tell you what, one of these days I'll stream some Brutal Doom on there just for fun. Because why not?
That reminds me, on YouTube, search Patrick Kijek, because I have put a bunch of highlights about my Overwatch days and now Battlefield 1 and who knows what's going to happen with Final Fantasy and etc.
There we go. I actually did watch some of your Overwatch stuff. It was pretty cool.
Oh!
So. All right, guys. So that is going to do it. Just real quick, thank you so much to everybody who listens and reviews and retweets and interacts with us. It's been a blast. I think we're on a good track as far as like what the show is right now, and we're going to have even more guests coming and hopefully some more special episodes coming before the end of the year.
Angelo might cream his pants.
That's true. Why was that? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, we can't talk about that on the air, but yeah, there might be a reason. Okay, so that's going to do it. Thank you for listening.
Man?
Oh, I remember.
I loved Bionic Man. Remember Chewbacca again? Oh, I love to remember Chewbacca. Hey, remember when there weren't so many Mexicans? Oh, I remember.
Wait, what?
Yeah, remember when marriage was just between a man and a woman? I remember. Oh, I remember.
Yeah, I remember that. Wait.
Remember feeling safe? Remember no ISIS? Remember Reagan? Oh, I remember. Oh, remember.
What the fuck's going on with these member berries?